So, how is everyone's life before we start?
Sorry, I just had to get a burp out of the way. I'm drinking some fizzy water. Don't know why, because I'm going to keep burping, but
Why am I drinking a beer? You know what I mean? You just do it. Alcoholism, that's why, but...
I mean, I don't have that excuse for my fizzy water, but...
No.
Oh, real quick before we start.
This is going to be a before we start episode?
No, this isn't part of the show, but
yeah.
This last Monday, I walked out of Metro as an employee for the last time.
Yay!
Can't remember if I told you guys yet, but...
You told me that you were coming up on your last day, but yeah. Fuck yeah.
Congratulations.
It's over.
That's so exciting.
Fuck Metro!
Yeah, fuck Metro.
If the CEO of Metro is currently listening, go fuck yourself.
We should steal produce from Metro and then sell it back to Metro.
Oh, in the theme of the movie.
In the theme of the movie, of course. Of course.
What is the feature-length podcast? Anyone?
The feature-length podcast is a show where three idiots talk about film and entertainment.
Good answer.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, are you talking to us?
Yeah. I'm talking to the voices in my head.
Like, I truly don't know. It felt like a fever dream. I swear to God, I could not.
It sounds so stupid hearing that.
If you're listening to this is a podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies and TV for a feature length of time.
Hello, and welcome back to the feature-length podcast, a podcast where three friends do the Lord's work, sit around and talk about movies. My name is Marco, and I'm joined today, as always, by Daniel.
Hello.
And Carolina.
What up?
I do not like that energy. This is going to be chaotic. Today is a first on the FLP as we combine two of our fan favorite episode types. The first, an episode where someone hasn't seen the movies we're talking about, and the second, when we do a double feature of movies that, while not sequels, are related to each other in some way, whether it be tone, subject matter, the creative team, etc. Today we are doing a double feature of two modern westerns. Westerns, of course, referring to stories about a few characters in a rural and isolated area dealing with moral dilemmas. Also, cowboy hats. The first is Hell or High Water from 2016. The movie is written by Taylor Sheridan and directed by David Mackenzie. The movie centers around two brothers who are trying to do right by their family and break the cycle of poverty they've been living in. Chris Pine plays one of the brothers who, while caring for his dying mother, discovers that her farmland is sitting on a metric fuckton of oil. However, the bank has a reverse mortgage on the land, and unless they can pay that off, the land will be lost. Working with his older brother, played by Ben Foster, fresh out of jail for killing their abusive father, they will go on a one-way trip to rob branches of the bank that's screwing over their family and use that money to buy the land back from the bank, so Chris Pine can leave it to his estranged ex-wife and children. However, these two brothers have to deal with Jeff Bridges, playing an old sheriff who is days away from retirement, looking for one last adventure to avoid becoming an old man with nothing to live for. Jeff and his partner, played by Hollywood's favorite Native American character actor and Twilight's own, Gil Birmingham, are going to hunt these brothers down if it means the death of them. Literally. The movie has a runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes with a 96 score on Rotten Tomatoes. The film was nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Bridges, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing. The second film is Wind River from 2017, written and directed by Taylor Sheridan. The film centers around the mysterious death of a young Native American woman named Natalie in the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. The local Wind River hunter, played by Jeremy Renner, discovers the body and is compelled to solve the case, as he has his own trauma relating to the similar death of his 16-year-old daughter many years back. When word of the murder gets out, the FBI sends a young agent, played by Elizabeth Olsen, to get preliminary info on the case. However, after realizing there won't be more help coming, she stays back to track the murderer down. Together, Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch will team up to find out who is responsible and bring them to justice. Also, Gil Birmingham plays Natalie's father because it's a movie involving Native Americans. The film received no nominations at the Oscars and has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87%, with a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. It should be noted, however, the movie was released by the Weinstein Company just before the Me Too movement happened, so it's not exactly surprising the film ended up being a sleeper hit with not a lot of awards recognition that year, because who wants to nominate a movie produced by Harvey Weinstein? So, before I turn this over to Carol, as she hasn't seen this movie before, or either of these movies, to give her general thoughts, I think we should probably give a trigger warning in advance because, particularly, Wind River has scenes involving both self-harm and rape.
Would have been nice before I watched the movie.
Yeah. So those are definitely both in the movie for anyone listening, and I also think, like, the self-harm scene we could probably get away with not really talking about in the discussion, but particularly the rape scene, I think there is a lot to talk about with that scene, and I think it'll be pertinent to our conversation. Yeah, but that being said, like, we're definitely gonna try and talk, I think, in chronological order. We'll start with Hell or High Water, then go to Wind River, but obviously there's gonna be crosstalk, so just be aware that the subject matter is definitely going to come up at some point in the episode. Probably later on, but hey, who knows. So, anyway, Carol, go ahead. You haven't seen these movies before, so maybe just start off by saying your general thoughts on both and if you preferred one over the other. And we'll just start there, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah. Hadn't seen either of these. I didn't know either of them existed either, just in general. I was pleasantly surprised to see Taylor Lautner's dad from Twilight in both of them. That was fun.
Well, hey, what are you going to do? Native Americans in a movie, so he's going to be there every time.
I just have to say real quick, when you mentioned that in the intro, until then I forgot that he was in Twilight.
Oh, Dan.
Oh my goodness. It's my first note.
Yeah, I know, yeah. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, fuck.
But yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I haven't really seen any kind of Western before, and I know these aren't like really a traditional Western, especially because they're both so recent, and even Wikipedia calls them neo-Westerns, whatever the fuck that means. And yeah, I don't think it's anything like what
my first thought
was
also The Matrix. So when you said Neo, I was like, can I make a Matrix jokes out of this?
Like, it's so random.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I was expecting more like saloons, I think. And there was not a single saloon in either film. So I was led astray. But yeah, so I watched them in the order of release. So Hell or High Water first. It was fine. I don't know. It was like, I liked, obviously, you know, stealing from a bank to pay back a bank, you know, badass, love that. And fun fact, apparently that is why the film didn't get a wide release, because not a lot of like huge like Cineplex type corporations wanted to do a full release of it, because they were like, we don't like this whole stealing from bank idea. But, you know, corporations, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
anyway, it was fine. Yeah, I don't know. It, like, wasn't really my thing. Like, I guess there wasn't, like, enough emotion to it. I just felt kind of bored, even though, like, it was pretty, like, the pace was fine. Like, I can't really blame it on that. I just, like, I couldn't really empathize that much with the characters. Like, obviously, like, being poor sucks. Like, I guess I can relate to that. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just, yeah. Especially the older brother, he really got on my nerves, and I know that was like the point. He was like the unhinged one, but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of tougher for me to get through, but it was fine, and like I get why people liked it and stuff. Just not my cup of tea. And then Wind River, I watched immediately after. I was excited from the get-go because despite hating Jeremy Renner, I kind of liked that it was going to lead to a mystery.
Yeah.
I like that aspect better than like a just full-on like robbery crime deal. It kind of sucked that it was about, you know, an Indigenous woman getting murdered. Because, you know, we're no stranger to that in Canada. Read a lot about it. Always very sad. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I don't really know much about, like, America and their Indigenous people, so I didn't know it was going to be set on a reservation. Like, it started, and they were like, oh, he has an Indigenous ex-wife. Also, a lot of ex-wives happening, so that's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of themes. There's a lot of Taylor Sheridan-specific themes.
Yeah.
Like he's divorced.
He must be, yeah.
But yeah, so then when they introduced, like, Indigenous ex-wife, taking a son to a res, I was like, is this gonna get problematic? And then, like, Indigenous women murdered, and I was like, yikes. And then they started like bringing in oil workers, and I was like, bigger yikes, because man camps always lead to more murder and missing women, and it just got more and more yikes, until a very very graphic rape scene and murder. It was a lot. Like, it was really, really good. I actually really liked it. But it just really took me off guard because I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was very interesting. The pace was great. The story was, like, I get the point. We'll talk about why this white man decided to write it later. But yeah, no, it was really good. And those are my thoughts.
All right, Dan the Man, you're up.
So I'll just start by saying I really, really like both of these movies. I've watched them once previous to the viewing for this episode, and I'll just say I liked them both initially as well, but I think I liked Hell or High Water a little bit more this time, and Wind River just ever so slightly less. I still do, as I said, really like these movies. I think I still like Wind River more than Hell or High Water, just because Hell or High Water has more of a slow burn pace, which is nothing wrong with that. Neither of these movies are badly paced, but I prefer the more exciting pace of Wind River. I guess it's a more traditional pace, and like Carol was saying, it's more of a mystery, which is more enticing to me. But they're both really good character dramas, above all else. And especially, like, when I heard of Hell or High Water back in 2016, and the first time I'd seen it was this year, so I hadn't seen either of these movies until this year. So back in 2016, when I first heard of Hell or High Water, I was expecting like a heist movie.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised when it turned out to just be a really solid character drama. Also, Jeff Bridges' accent.
So good. What's he saying? I don't know. Good thing I watched with subtitles.
It's not what he's saying. It's how
he's saying it. Yes.
But yeah, I'll also say that I think Wind River, out of the two, is the more like topical and pertinent one, obviously. Which maybe is why I like it more too. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Just in general, very, very well written and well directed and well shot, well everything pretty much.
Yeah.
Character dramas above all else. Yeah.
So the part of the impetus of us doing this was that I had been talking for a long time about how much I liked Hell or High Water. And then I watched Wind River for the first time maybe about 6 months ago. Dan, pretty closely after, you watched both of them, and then we were kind of like, oh, we should do this on the podcast one day.
Yeah. Actually, I will note, Hell or High Water came about when I was doing like I was doing a purge of all the acclaimed movies on Netflix I'd never seen.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Oh.
I do that a lot too.
Yeah. So I did like that. We talked about this in the chat a little bit, but I did like Marriage Story for the first time.
So good.
Good Will Hunting I'd never seen before this year. That was one of them. So yeah. And then Wind River followed suit after a couple months later.
Yeah. I've seen... Okay, so first of all, let me say, I do really like both of these movies. And to your point, Dan, I think what I appreciate the most about them is I just think Taylor Sheridan is a very good character writer. Like, neither of these movies necessarily have, like, an overly complex plot. They're actually both very simple. But there's just so much interesting character work that gets done in them. And yeah, I just find that really compelling. And I think he's just a very compelling storyteller. I know he didn't direct Hell or High Water, but you can see a lot of how that movie ends up playing out is because of the way it's written, and clearly he had influence over it as well, because it seems like it has a similar direction to Wind River, even though he actually directed that one. So I would assume he was involved in the direction, even if not like credited. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like similar to an Aaron Sorkin situation, where on a couple days maybe he stood in as a director for some scenes.
I would think so, and I think he was clearly very involved with the director regardless, because it has that, they both have that same feel. But that's, I think, what I like about both of them. Now, I will say Hell or High Water is like far and away the one I enjoy more. And it's not a quality thing for me, because I think they're probably very similar in terms of quality. like they're both very well written, acted, directed, shot, edited, everything. Like I can't find fault in either of them for that. But Hell or High Water I've probably seen about 6 times now.
Oh damn!
And it's like, well, but it's like after the first time I watched it, I think I was kind of like, yeah, it was good, nice Oscar movie, good job. But it's one of those movies that the more I've watched it, and because of like one day my dad was like, let's watch a movie, and I was like, well, have you seen Hell or High Water? Like, let's watch it. And then one day someone else was like, I haven't seen this, so we watched it. And now it's just gone to a point where it's almost like every time I watch it, I enjoy a bit more of the slower burn pace of it even more and more, because it just feels like I'm sitting in the world a little bit, and just like hanging out with the characters, and it's just kind of like a calming watch. I know that sounds like a strange thing to say because it ends in a very fucked up way, and like I mean most of it's pretty fucked up, but it is just sort of like a calming watch. And I think the thing that I like the most about it is that ultimately to me it feels the most like a neo-western of the two, because it is just like a really simple cops and robbers story. Is all it is. It's like some people are robbing a bank and some guys are chasing them down, which as a premise is just like the oldest Western premise of all time. But it's like to do that in a modern movie way, and then to make it compelling and to add this like really interesting, I think, like the more times I've watched it, character drama between all the characters and stuff is just like what a cool twist to put on that. It feels like unique and special in that way. Whereas Wind River, which although good, does feel more just like a solid mystery, which I like mystery stories. I got no problem with mystery stories, but it feels more like, okay, like this is a pretty run-of-the-mill kind of murder mystery, a well-made one, but just a murder mystery nonetheless. And then to add on top of that the fact that, yeah, there's just really fucked up shit in there that even after my first time of watching, I was kind of like, oh boy, like this is like a lot to handle. And so I kind of walked away going like, yeah, that was a good movie, but man, like I don't know if I ever want to watch this again. But yeah, I think Hell or High Water, just the reason I've watched it more, and I think we'll continue to watch it more over time, is just because it has just that like interesting energy. And I think every time I watch it, and it's funny because we were literally just talking about this with Goodfellas earlier this morning, but like the first time I watched it, I was like so focused on the plot elements, I guess, and just like the mechanics of it. But like now, like watching it again this most recent time, it's like there's just so many like small moments of dialogue or whatever, or things that I pick up that like leads me, like Carol, you were saying like you didn't have as much of an emotional reaction with it, and I don't think I did the first time either. But now like watching it again like multiple times, it's like, oh, okay, like I get a lot of the dynamics more and a lot of the relationships more, and I am more emotionally compelled by it. In like I think a real way than compared to something like Wind River, which is like emotionally compelling but in a like traumatic way, yeah. Which I think is different. Like I think, yeah, we'll get into the details, but I just, that's overall why I think I like Hell or High Water better. But obviously these are both well-made movies. I don't like, you can't argue these aren't well-made movies. But it is kind of shocking to me, by the way, that Wind River got 0 Oscar noms. Like it has to be the Harvey Weinstein thing.
I was just gonna say, like, it's very unfortunate that it was literally around that time. Because it's just as good. So, like, it deserves just as many nominations, if not more.
But after that, Sheridan, like, called up the Weinstein Company and was like, hey, for home release, I don't want you connected to this at all. I want, like, I'm not gonna put your title card before the film. Like, you're out. Like, someone else will deal that. And Lionsgate ended up taking it over for like, video release.
Good for him.
Yeah, so at least there's that. But I don't know how that works in with the Oscars thing.
Yeah, or also, like, I watched these movies on Netflix. I don't know if
me
you
too.
guys did.
Me too.
And obviously it said that on the Netflix version. So I'm wondering, like, I always thought they ripped, like, home release versions for Netflix, but maybe they just got, like, a direct source.
For streaming, they also took the logo. Like, they were supposed to take the title card off.
You know
and
what?
then just have the name at, because I saw the name, but I don't remember seeing the title.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, because when I was at the end of the movie, when his name came up, I was like, I don't remember seing the logo at the beginning. So that's why.
They took that out.
Okay, so they just left the name, but I guess there was a logo initially.
Yeah. I will say, fun fact, and you know, we'll start talking about Hell or High Water now, I guess, since that's the first movie. We'll get into the details of it, but Hell or High Water is one of like 2 movies that I watched on streaming and then enjoyed so much that I just bought on Blu-ray.
Nice.
To have, because I really liked it. It was that, and it was Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. Both those movies I watched on Netflix, and literally as soon as they were done, I went on Amazon. I mean, I know Amazon, I get it, but like, this was back in the day. It was like a handful of years ago. I wasn't really paying attention to stuff, so I went on Amazon and I was like, give me this movie. So,
Okay,
yeah.
Also, I think we like messed up a bit, because why didn't we also watch Sicario?
Because, okay,
Sicario?
Great question. Taylor
'Cause
Sheridan
the
wrote
three of
Sicario.
them, he explicitly says make up, I don't remember what he called it, but some like neo-Western trilogy.
Yeah, he did. So Sicario, to me, feels the most different. And I think it's a lot of that is because, have either of you guys seen it?
No. Isn't that a Denis Villeneuve?
Yes. Yeah. It's because it's directed by Denis Villeneuve, so it's like 3 hours long and very slow. And so
I feel like that one might not fit as well with the others.
that was the thing. And I did watch it. It was one of the, like, Darren, you were talking about like a Netflix purge of like good movies. That was something that I had done where I was like, oh, okay, Sicario, I should probably watch this. And I watched it, and, you know, it's definitely well made, but just like a lot of Denis stuff, it is sort of like, okay, like, can we get to the end? You know what I mean? And I just feel like these other two movies both are like well-paced, quick, simple, brief, just kind of character dramas, and Sicario is like really blown out, and it's like, we get it, freaking John Krasinski's wife is gonna get blown up by the cartel. Like, can we get to the next scene? Like, yeah, I'm not to shit on Sicario, it's obviously a good movie, but it just doesn't fit like the vibe of these.
Hates Sicario. Pass it on.
It's just
props to Denis Villeneuve though. Like, I don't know what strings he had to pull to get the full release of all of his movies every single time, but all his movies end up like being allowed to be almost 3 hours long.
It's wild. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I respect the integrity though.
Me too. I mean, look, and again, like, they're not bad. But
No.
you made this point after we walked out of Dune, which is that all his movies feel like the director's cut of his movie. They
which
feel,
is ideal.
Sure.
For him.
For him.
Maybe not always for the audience, because there's some stuff in there that probably doesn't need to be in there.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I just don't think that one. I don't know if it just doesn't fit with these. Like, these two, I think, are a very nice 1-2 punch. Whereas
They're
Sicario,
also really short.
They're both really short. They're both under 2 hours. They're both, again, in sort of like really rural areas. Obviously, one is like the middle of Texas. One is like this reservation in Wyoming. But like, Sicario is just like in America, and they're like dealing with a drug cartel. So like, content wise, I get what he means, that it's like sort of a Western, because it's all about like standoffs and like everything is fucked up and whatever. But I don't know. It just feels totally different. So I, don't count that.
Fair enough.
Well written. It's Taylor Sheridan. He's a good writer. So,
What else? Has he done anything else?
so he does a show. He writes for a show. Yellowstone. He's actually, I think he might be the showrunner. Which I always thought was just like one of those like hick, like white people shows, where it's like, okay, Kevin Costner's in a TV show and he's a cop or something. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Law and
Like a
Order, SVU.
procedural?
Yeah, I was like, this is probably some bullshit show. But then I saw last night doing research that he was like involved in it, and I was like, oh, so it must be good then, because it's another like Western drama TV show.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so he did that, and I think he was also involved in Sons of Anarchy, maybe, which again was
He
like
used
a
to be
pretty
an
big
actor.
TV hit. Yeah.
Taylor Sheridan?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's also
Okay.
Ty Sheridan, who's like someone else.
Is that the guy from Extreme Makeover Home Edition?
No, I don't think so. I think
I think
Ty
he has a different
Sheridan.
last name.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
think.
his name was Ty.
No, I think Ty Sheridan is the guy from Ready Player One, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I
and
think.
Young Cyclops.
And Young Cyclops. Yeah, that's right.
Young
I'm pretty sure.
Cyclops?
From X-Men. It doesn't
From
matter.
the reboot
It doesn't
trilogy.
I mean, until it matters,
Yeah,
until it's
doesn't
in the MCU, which will be any minute now. I'm sure fucking tomorrow we're
They're
gonna
gonna
see-
reboot it
I'm
again.
sure in No Way Home the fucking X-Men are gonna show up as well at this point. So
Bring everyone
post-credit
into
scene.
it.
post-credit scene.
It's gonna happen.
It's happening. Oh yeah.
Anyway, not to talk about Marvel.
All right, guys, we're
Hell or
about a
High
half hour
Water.
in. Yeah, we should probably talk about this first movie. Okay, do you guys have any initial thoughts on Hell or High Water you guys want to talk about?
My first note is, what in the devil? That's literally all I wrote.
What was that in reference to?
Someone said it, and I was like, we're in Texas.
Oh. Yeah, we are in Texas.
And that was my first thought.
Fun. I guess to start off, I really I enjoy how in those first bank robbery scenes, because it starts off and it's very tense. You know what I mean? Everything's very tense. You're like, oh, they're gonna rob the bank, and then they are so
bad at
it is. It's
Okay.
but it's like the opposite of Dark Knight because they're so fucking bad at it, and it's so like.
I'm just kidding. It's nothing like that.
No, it's so endearing to me that like no one gives a shit that they're
Even
robbing
so
these
much that
banks.
The teller is like, "Are you an idiot? You're robbing a bank first thing in the morning?"
It's so good. Like nobody cares. Yeah, that first bank robbery. They're like, they get in. Yeah, the teller can't like get into the thing for them or whatever, so they have to wait for the next guy to show up. They're just like chilling there, waiting for the next guy. So good.
I think my favorite part of the movie as a whole was just like getting an idea of what Texas is like from Taylor Sheridan's perspective, because I've never been. He's a native Texan. And just seeing every single time they rob a bank that there were multiple townspeople who just had their guns ready and out and were like there to defend and like stop
Isn't that like
them.
the scariest thing ever though?
Yes, it is fucked up, but that's also, to your point, like that's so much I think of the personality of this movie that I really enjoy, and a lot of the humor is like just these Texas townspeople
Like,
that do not give no fear, like, and that's and just like the ridiculousness of everything going on. So, and I love when they go to rob that second bank in the same morning, which first of all, like poor Chris Pine, like his brother's just putting him through so much shit, and he's like, dude,
his brother's a shit.
Yeah, he's like, we can't do this, and his brother's like, I got this, don't worry. But I noticed when they go rob that second bank this time that like his mask is like askew. It's not even on his face properly. It's like hanging off his face in a weird way, and it was just like, these guys are such dorks. Like they don't even know what they're doing.
Also, in that second one, his brother, I think Tanner's his brother name, he hops onto the counter like Green Goblin.
Yeah, he does like the weird hop, and his like mask is fucked up. And I like there's like the one old guy in the bank at that point with his gun.
Wearing a cowboy hat.
And
Love
being
it.
Racist, also another
Being
theme
racist.
throughout
Also
the
being
film.
racist, yeah.
I have
Love
the quote,
it.
"You're robbing a bank and you're not even Mexicans."
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a
First
nice
5
line
minutes
from
in the
whole
movie.
First 5 minutes. Oh, there's a lot of racism in this. This movie is like 90% racism, but like on purpose. It's not like it's not a racist movie. It's like about it's about racist people, but it is, there's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I like when he like he's like, take the gun from him, and then he like doesn't steal the gun and he leaves it there, and the guy starts shooting at him on the way out, and he's like, why didn't you take the gun? He's like, I'm not gonna steal this old man's gun. And it's like, you guys are such idiots. But I respect it.
Yeah, it is a really good I like that like the use of guns in this movie. It does end up being sort of an anti-gun. It's not an anti-gun movie, but there are elements of anti-gun like threaded throughout.
Yeah.
So I like that too. It's also really, really scary. One of the scariest parts, like quote unquote scariest in the movie for me, is I think it's after the last bank heist. There's like this convoy of trucks.
Yep.
Just civilians in their trucks getting ready to like come after them and shoot them.
I
like,
love that.
That's Texas.
That's so fucking Texas.
It's also funny though when they get scared away when the brother takes out the automatic weapon and just starts spraying him.
Exactly, but I also like, like it's so like just interesting to see like the small town dynamics of like this is what like this place that's basically out of time is like, and I think that's why it's so cool as like to do a modern Western, because the character stuff is all very modern. But, like, plot-wise, this is, like, shit you would see. It'd be, like, people would get on their horses and, like, chase down the crooks or whatever. Like, that's literally what would happen,
You see people still riding horses in this movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's, like, in Texas, it's normal to just have a horse as a vehicle still.
There was horse parking outside a convenience store at one point.
At the gas station.
Yeah. I love it. It makes the movie almost feel like a period piece, kind of.
Yeah.
Because there's, like, modern things, like phone, radio, whatever, but it very much is, like, and the cars are all modern.
Yeah,
because like they call them by name, but
true. Yeah, but also like the first bank, it's only now are they upgrading from VCRs for the security tapes.
Yes, it's hilarious. Also, I fucking love like at the third bank when he's like, "Did you record it?" And he's like, "Of course we did. What kind of bank wouldn't like have recordings of what was going on?" Just funny joke. Good times.
And it's also
this
funny
movie
that
was very funny, surprisingly.
That's right. I like it. Yeah,
there are a lot of funny parts.
It's so like
mostly from Jeff Bridges.
It's whimsical. It's just so whimsical. I love it. Like that. It's like it just has like like fun energy around like serious subject matter in a way, which is always like my favorite thing when you can combine those two.
Yeah, and I think my favorite like elements of this movie was just watching Jeff Bridges and Gil Birmingham.
Yeah.
Just like stake out lazily, like the
So
classic
good.
lazy stakeout of a sheriff and his partner, like
Yes.
outside the restaurant. He falls asleep outside the restaurant.
I know, yeah.
In this like dead little town
Oh,
in the
it's
middle
so
of nowhere. It's quaint.
It's quaint, but it's so nice. It's also quaint, just like how few characters there are, though. But
Yeah.
it's really like refreshing
At least ones
almost
we
because
follow.
yeah, ones that we. I mean, people pop. There's like a waitress that's like a annoying person. She's like, "What are you not gonna order?" And I'm like, "Okay, we get it. You've been a waitress for 40 years. Like, shut up." But yeah, it's really.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
one of the funniest parts in the movie for me is after that, when she walks away and they're like commenting about like how bad this place is. Jeff Bridges is like, "I'll tell you one thing for sure, no one's gonna rob this place."
Yeah, that was a really good line. Yeah, so we should talk a little bit about Jeff Bridges and his partner because we didn't talk about them as much. As I alluded to in the intro, Chris Pine and his brother are, robbing banks to use the money to pay the banks back so that way they can get the land so that way he can leave it for his kids. Which I think is like an interesting concept, like using their money to pay them back for it. Like that's always
Yeah, I
kind of
think so,
fun.
too.
And but I think like a lot of the more, because like their character stuff is what it is. Like he wants to provide and whatever, and he's sad his brother dies at the end. But I think the stuff with Jeff Bridges and his partner is the more compelling stuff because Jeff Bridges is like this
Jeff
old.
Bridges.
Yeah. What did I say?
No, I mean Jeff Bridges.
Oh,
is
he's.
Jeff
Oh,
Bridges.
sorry. Yeah. He is just. I mean, he is just Jeff Bridges. He's been Jeff Bridges for the last like
Yeah.
20 years. He just always is that. He's Obadiah Stane. Yeah, I enjoy him being like, it's the old trope of like the cop that's just about to retire, but he's got to go on one last adventure. But I think they do such a good job with it of showing how like he is so scared of like living that other life that's not the cop life. And then also there's such nice foreshadowing at the start with him and his partner, where his partner's like, oh, you want to go down in like a blaze of glory or whatever, like in the middle of a gunfight, but then that ends up happening to his partner.
It's a switcheroo.
It's like the switcheroo, which is and it's
very
like
sad.
very sad, and that's
And
also sudden, surprising. I was like flabbergasted the first time I
I
watched
was
the
not
movie.
surprised, but like still sad.
It was shocking. Also.
It was shocking as
Yeah.
shit, and I appreciate. I think they do such a good job with his character of like leading up to that moment, and I think he does a really good performance in that moment of having to convey so many different things because it's like my best friend died. B, my best friend died in the middle of me like saying really bad shit to him.
Yeah, because
because
mid-sentence.
mid-sentence
And everything else he had said, like joking around with him.
exactly. And it's that thing of like he has to convey not only that like he's sad his friend died, but that he's conflicted about like I hope he knew that like I cared about him and was just fucking around. And then he also then has to get across the emotion of that should have been me.
Yeah.
Because like this guy still had his life and I have no life after this. So it's like so many different emotions that he has to convey. And I think he does such a good job of that. And then eventually going up on the hill to kill the other brother, which I think is very like gratifying for his character that like he gets that moment at the end to kind of like I don't know, redeem himself in a way.
It's like, who's the protagonist in this movie?
Yeah, it's really interesting that they because you like intuition would say like it's Chris Pine because
But also Jeff Bridges, you could definitely make an argument for that. And I think there's a very clear parallel between the two, especially visually.
Yes.
At the end, like especially in the last scene, Chris Pine really like reminds me of Jeff Bridges' look in this movie.
Yeah.
Just a younger version.
For sure. And I think that's clear too. They both lose, for all intents and purposes, like their brother in a way, like the person they were closest to, and yeah, and it is the thing of like we're not so different, you and I, but they don't actually have to say that because it's a good movie. It's not Spider-Man 1.
Maybe
Jeff
they said
Bridges
it
doesn't
when they
come
met
lean.
up again later.
Maybe with that. I did like that at the end when I think the line is like he's about to leave and he's like, oh, why don't you come meet me later? Maybe I'll give you some peace or something like that. And then he's like,
maybe I'll give it to you.
maybe I'll give it to you first.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was like a good, nice way to.
Does
end
that
the
mean one
movie.
of them's gonna kill the other one?
Possibly.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask you guys about. Like, do you think the movie literally ends with them getting in a gunfight, like, after the credits type thing? Or is it more like a mutual respect of, like, Because I always thought Jeff Bridges' intent in that scene, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, was that he was going to kill Chris Pine one way or another. He was like, fuck this, I have nothing to live for, I'm here to kill you. But then I think maybe once he like saw Chris Pine's wife and family come up, he like put together in his head why he was doing what he was doing, and so he was like, okay, respect, and then left.
I get that too. I think it's like it'll be a back and forth between them. I don't think it would ever actually like become a gunfight. Like, I think it's something that they would live their whole lives sort of like taunting back and forth, but never actually like eventually they just come to terms with what's happened.
Yeah, and they
or not come to terms with what's happened, but just never work up the courage to actually kill the other one.
Yeah, definitely Chris Pine. I can't imagine him killing the sheriff for any reason, especially because like his only goal was to set up his son's future, and he did that. So I think at this point, like, he truly doesn't really care if he lives or dies. So I can't see him having motivation for killing the sheriff. And yeah, now that the sheriff isn't a sheriff, I guess I don't know if he would kill Chris Pine either.
Yeah, it is. That's also another parallel I didn't really realize, was that like just like the sheriff, I think to some degree was kind of like, man, I hope I die on this last adventure so I don't have to like live the rest of my life. Chris Pine, to a certain degree, and you see this when he's talking to his wife and kids, is like, doesn't matter what happens to me, but you guys are going to be taken care of. Yeah. But now, like, they both are forced to live the rest of their lives with like the decisions they made, which is a fun parallel between them I never really noticed.
Yeah. So I guess it really doesn't matter if they killed each other because they
don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care
to live.
Yeah, they don't care enough to live. They're both just like equally want to be dead.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why they definitely kept it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Just let you think about it a little bit.
I love that ending. I just think it's a really like nice touch at the end of the movie.
I didn't really see that coming. I did really like that.
Yeah.
The only thing about the end of the movie that it's very superficial, but that kind of bothers me, is the last shot, for seemingly no reason, lowers down to the grass. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be symbolic of anything, or if it was just like a cool... Yeah.
I have to go rewatch that.
Like, it's a drone shot or whatever.
Oh. That,
like, after Jeff Bridges drives away, it, like, the camera jarringly, like, starts lowering down onto the ground. Because then the caption comes up of, like, this film is dedicated to whoever, the family of the director, right?
Right.
I don't know, it's just weird. Like, that shot doesn't, like, mean anything to me. It's just... Yeah. They made it maybe just because it looked cool, or just to have a background for the caption, but I forgot about that the second time, and it reminded me of how like just sudden and like random it was the first time I was watching.
That's really funny. Again, I never even clocked it. Yeah,
very superficial, but worth noting.
Fair enough. I wonder if it was just, we need a background
maybe
to put this text on, and we don't want to cut to black. So
the landscape would have worked just fine.
Yeah,
the truck driving off.
Exactly, it would have. Yeah, they fix that problem in the next movie. They have no problem putting text over an image in the next movie. So
I liked how that was handled.
Me too. I liked how that one was handled better too at the end. Yeah, but you know, hell or high water. So I have some other notes here. So I like after the first two robberies, they go to have breakfast.
Gotta eat your breakfast.
Gotta eat breakfast at the diner. Yeah. They go to the diner, and then the one brother is just crazy and goes to rob the other bank next door because he's an idiot. But, so, like, they meet this waitress, or Chris Pine, at least, like, really hits it off with this one waitress.
And she offers him a job?
Yeah, really weird.
That's how I felt,
too. Do you want to work here? It was really odd. But then Jeff Bridges goes back to, like, interview her, and then says, we need to take the money as evidence. And then she said this line, and I had to write this down, because he asks, like, how much did they tip you? And she says $200. And then he says, I need to take this back as evidence. And then she said, $200, that's half a mortgage payment. And I thought to myself, your mortgage payment is $400 a month. That's what you're telling me right now, waitress. That you own a house and are paying $400 a month.
Can you tell that Marco's a new homeowner?
Texas.
Where? Not even in fucking Texas. Like, I don't... That is unheard of.
Texas is a weird and strange land that none of us are familiar with.
Like, if that's true, why the hell was Chris Pine even robbing banks? Like, bro, you could have bought this back with, like, a quarter, apparently. Like, what are we even talking about?
Maybe this movie was set, like 50 years ago, and they just didn't tell us.
That's the thing is, it's not, because at one point they're like, there's a Ford Bronco driving up the street. And I'm like, okay, so this movie takes place now. But also, like, so much of it does feel like it could take place 50 years ago, in which case, yeah, maybe that makes sense. But it's like,
I think it just goes back to what we were saying. Like, Texas is so out of time.
Yeah.
It's unimaginable.
And of course, like, I literally, again, I've seen this movie like 6 times, only noticed it this time just because I am a new homeowner. But, like, I was like, what? Anyway, we can move on past that point.
But I feel like it's things like that, like, just tiny details that sometimes show you how out of touch rich people are.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that sounds about right. $400 for a mortgage?
$400,
sure.
right? Sure. Unless, like, and that's what I was going through in my head. I was like, okay, Taylor Sheridan has no idea how much a mortgage costs, because he's just so rich for movies. He just bought a house outright and has never had to pay a mortgage payment. B, it's like a joke. Like, some type of inside joke or something that just nobody gets. Or C, it is just supposed to be a weird world building thing of like, this is just where we are in this small middle of nowhere town.
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever. Which I think is probably what it is.
Yeah.
But
still funny. Yeah.
Still funny.
I took note of that. Like, I took a mental note of that line too when I was watching last night.
Christ. Yeah, still funny. Still a funny line. Another line I enjoy, or I guess moment, is when they're at the gas station and the one guy in the green car like pulls out his gun and starts like threatening Ben Foster, and then Chris Pine comes and fucks him up.
But
then
what actually happened there? Because, like,
I don't know.
He was just...
It looked to me like Ben Foster was, like, asleep.
Yeah.
But I guess he was staring at them?
I think the implication is that he was just staring at them.
Yeah. He was staring them down.
And again, I think this is just like Texas.
Yeah.
Small town Texas. Like, you just look at this guy, he gets his gun out and he's trying to fuck you up.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same shot that there was a horse in the back.
Yeah, I think this whole... And also, like, this whole scene has to be comedic because...
There's the combination of a horse, this lime green muscle car,
Yeah.
and then their shitty old whatever they were driving.
Whatever they're driving.
In the same shot at the same gas station.
I love it, though. I love Chris Pine coming out of nowhere, fucks up the one guy, goes to the other side of the car, and the guy on the other side is like, he had it coming, man.
Yeah.
He had it coming. And Chris Pine's like, cool. And then goes back.
Slams the door.
Slams the door. And then as they drive out, the Taylor, or whatever, the one brother's like, hey, you didn't get me a Dr. Pepper. I asked for a Dr. Pepper. This is something else. And they just start arguing about Dr. Pepper. And I was like, oh, that's, like, it's just, like, fun, endearing, like, brotherly stuff that can still happen inside of this, like, ridiculous bank robbery story.
Yeah, or even there's I think it's, like, after the second bank or something, when they go back to Chris Pine's house to sleep. And Tanner's sleeping on the couch, and he goes to wake him up, and he freaks out.
Yeah.
And he starts like punching him because like I don't know if we mentioned yet, but Tanner has done jail time.
Yes, he killed their father.
Yes, that's what it was.
Because he was abusive.
He killed their father, and also he was in jail before or after that. Probably after that for robbing banks.
Yeah,
which is part of the reason why they decide to take this method of paying back their bills.
Yes.
Where did they get all the cars from? Because they had like at least 3 different cars to
I was wondering the exact same thing.
I think from that dealer, because later in the movie we see them go to some kind of sketchy dealer to buy a car from him.
Oh, and they kind of know him?
And I think the implication is like they bought all these cars from him over time to plan up for the heist.
Damn.
Because I did also have that thought. I was like, how about you sell some of these cars to pay back your mortgage? Like, what the fuck? You have like 6 cars?
But you can have a bunch of cars? Okay.
I think the implication is like it's that sketchy dealer.
Okay.
I think.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But I also like how there's a lot of stuff in this that they just don't explain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of obvious backstory that like they're just, you kind of have to put it together like what happened in their family.
And I think it makes it interesting almost because like you can fill in the gaps however you want. Like there's just enough vagueness there where it's like, oh, you get it and you can fill it in with your own experience or whatever. And I appreciate like even just the fact that like one of the brother is like really good practically at robbing banks, but the other one's like real smart and he came up with a good plan. Like it feels almost like Scooby-Doo like, but it's like very like fun to have like that dynamic between the two brothers. It instantly like makes me understand them a little bit better of like, okay, so the older brother is like Which one's the older one of the two? Is it Chris Pine or?
No, I think Tanner is
It's
the
Tanner,
older.
right? Yeah, so Tanner as the older brother, but like probably feels insecure because his younger brother is like the smart, quote unquote, like successful one type thing. So anyway, it adds a lot of like character stuff there.
And his
to have
younger
those
brother
details.
is taller and more attractive.
Well, and his younger brother is Chris Pine, who is like the sexiest I've ever seen him in this movie. Chris Pine looks
Honestly,
fucking incredible in this
he really
movie.
does.
Oh my
The
god, I was
outfits
like,
suit
dude,
him,
what the
hair
shit?
suits him. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
facial
was-
The
hair is
facial
very
hair,
good.
dude. I was like,
Yeah.
you just need to be a cowboy. Just go be a cowboy for the rest of your life.
You know what else I thought was very clever in this movie is they're exchanging the money at the casino.
Brilliant.
I was gonna bring
To, like,
that up. I was like,
launder.
I don't know if it's just because I've never thought of like how to launder money.
That is so smart.
It's so
Especially
smart.
for something like this where you're just doing
Genius.
it like very limited, like you're just doing these few banks and then you're never doing it again.
Yeah.
Like, obviously this wouldn't work for like serial bank
Yeah.
robbers.
No,
But
yeah.
in this situation, it's a perfect way. Just go to the casino a couple times
Yeah.
and get completely new money.
It's
That was really
it's literally genius. It's so genius. I was like, and that's I think part of the fun of like what their plan is. And I also that's a note I took is that I really like how smart everyone is. Like I like that the bank robbers and their plan is like smart and interesting, and it's not just like the movie super like. It's not Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. Like, I'm gonna go rob the bank and then in the next scene have crates of parts that I need. It's like, no, like, we see their plan in action. We understand it. But I also like that Jeff Bridges is, like, there with them every step of the way. And,
Yeah.
like, is figuring stuff out in real time and clearly is, like, this super experienced cop or whatever. And, like, the validation he gets of being right when they're driving to that last bank.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they get the call on the radio that they're robbing the last bank. And he's like, fuck yeah. Like, I told you this is what it was gonna be.
Yeah, and his partner's like, I don't know, sometimes a blind pig finds a truffle
Yeah,
anyway.
it's so good. It's so funny. Also, I like how one of the robberies, I forget which one, I took this note down. They're like going to the robbery, and Tanner is like, whoa, we need to get some like hype music going, and they turn on the radio, and it was like Christian rock. It was like, Jesus, my Lord, and I was laughing.
No,
I was
It
no,
like,
said
that was
Jesus
good.
Christ died for my sins. Actually,
Oh, did it really?
It did.
I just took a swing, so I'm glad I was right.
I think that was actually when Jeff Bridges and
Oh,
Gil-
was it?
Yeah, when they were driving to the last bank.
Oh,
And he's
shit,
like-
so that was the
It's
same.
like, good Lord, please not that.
Oh, yeah, you're right, you're totally right. Still a funny line.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I also like that last bank, the really big one, was the equivalent of the big city
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
this world.
They were like, we can't. Chris Pine's like, we can't do that.
It's too
bank.
big.
It's too big.
Okay, also,
It's still
It's Texas.
just
tiny
to go
bank.
back to the casino. At one point, a girl was talking to Chris Pine and was just trying to sleep with him, and the brother thought she was trying to steal money from him. I don't know. But then they go to actually check in, and the older brother ends up hooking up with the receptionist.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know how she fell for those lines, but second of all, Chris Pine is just like hiding under the covers. While
Yes.
they're
Yeah,
having
that was
sex?
a sad scene.
I was gonna bring this up. Like,
And I was
that's
like,
not cool.
I couldn't do like what? I would leave.
Yeah.
Why are you there?
I feel like this happens a lot in movies, which maybe
Yeah.
is again, it's just people being out of touch with reality. But like,
But
people will be having sex
You'd
and
be
someone will just be
surprised.
there.
I feel like first year of university, I heard some mind-boggling stories, but just
I guess.
personally, I could never. I would rather die. I will sleep in the
No.
Yeah.
hallway. You know, like I
Yeah,
don't
Especially
care.
like it's his brother.
Yeah,
It's
like,
so awkward.
It's his literal brother.
Yeah.
But I think that was the point. It was supposed to be awkward, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to emphasize that again, his brother is like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he is. He's a huge dickhead.
He really is.
I think the girl hitting on Chris Pine, is the implication there supposed to be that she's like a hooker?
I
I
don't
couldn't
know.
tell. I feel like
'Cause
they
I-
usually
I-
miss that though.
I assumed that was the implication, and that's why his brother was like, "Oh, she's just trying to take your money." Like, I put that context on there, but the movie never says. I think.
Yeah,
one way
I
or
think
the
that's
other,
what
so.
he assumed, but I
Yeah,
don't know if
yeah,
she
yeah.
actually was.
Right,
And
right.
Yeah.
I see
don't
what you're saying.
think that was even made clear when he like pushed her away or whatever.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
So I think they left it kind of unclear.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter ultimately.
I mean, I like that this movie doesn't like hold anything right up to your face and be like, "This is what's happening."
Yeah. Well, because at the end of the day, it doesn't
yeah.
actually matter if she was or not.
Yes.
So it's like,
No.
all that matters is that the older brother's a dick.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's like, regardless.
And also Jeff Bridges is a dick.
And Jeff Bridges is a dick. Which, yeah, we should talk about. We haven't really talked about, but Jeff Bridges just Native American insult after insult in this entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
Which is, it's wild. And it gets paid off in a very, like...
It does, yeah.
Sad and, like, satisfying way, though.
Yeah.
But...
Well, but also they had his partner be half Indian, half Mexican or whatever, or like different parts. I don't exactly remember the breakdown. But he finds out like later on in the movie that he's also Mexican, and he's like, oh my god, I'm not even done with the Indian jokes, or vice versa. But regardless, I was like, Jesus Christ, oh my god.
He's like, I'll get to that once I'm finished with the Indian jokes.
I did like, that was a funny line, I thought, when, because his partner, I think it's his partner that straight up just says like, I'm half Mexican.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'll get to that when I'm done with the Indian jokes. It's a good moment between them. But yeah, as we alluded to, mid joke about a tomahawk, his partner gets shot in the head.
Through the eye.
Yeah.
By the older brother Tanner, who we should probably say basically at the outset of after having like robbed that bank, the big bank, the quote unquote big bank. There's like a whole gunfight that unfolds, and he lets Chris Pine escape, and then leads the gunfight to a hill where he takes the high ground. He uses Obi-Wan's tricks and takes the high ground.
Yeah, I remember when Obi-Wan set a car on fire and then
that was
rolled back
pretty
down the hill to
sick.
explode.
That was dope as fuck. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I thought he was just gonna burn it for the evidence.
Yeah.
But then it started rolling back, and I was like, "Oh, that's gonna explode."
See, I
It's
thought
fucking wild.
just that car was going to explode. I didn't foresee it hitting the other car and then everything exploding.
Yeah, and then
That's cool.
he gets on top of the hill, starts sniping cops, and takes out Jeff Bridges' his partner. Fucked up.
But then
Yeah, that
Jeff
was-
Bridges gets him. Payback.
Snipes him back.
Because
He
with
flags down-
random dude's gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He flags down the civilian who happens to have a sniper in his truck.
It's Texas, Dan. It's Texas. Forget everything you know. It's Texas. We might as well be on the fucking moon. Like...
But one thing that was like really weird, like I know the brother was an asshole, and like we're assuming all of the white people in this are racist, because Texas. But it was just really weird to me.
And because white people.
Yeah, it was just really weird to me when they were in the casino, because it was like an Indian, like quote unquote casino.
Yeah.
And then at like the one table, the older brother was talking to this, what is it, Comanche? Yeah, this
Yeah, it's
Comanche guy. And he's
Comanche.
like, yeah, we're Lord of the Plains. And he's like, well, you're not the lords of anything anymore. And then at the end, the older brother was like, I'm Lord of the Plains. And I was like, okay, that's weird. You don't need to say that. There was no
Yeah,
need
it
for
was
that.
like...
You're not.
But I think that's the point, is that like he thinks he is.
Like he's so
yeah,
arrogant.
he thinks
Clearly
he's
not,
a big
yeah.
hero.
Yeah, and that was immediately before he was killed.
Yes, it's like his last line. And then he even... Earlier at the casino, he does make some reference to when he's talking to the guy, and the guy's like, Comanche doesn't mean like Lord of the Plains, it means like enemy to everyone or whatever. And he's like, you know what that makes me? A Comanche. So like I don't know, like he just like has an attitude fucking problem.
Yeah.
But I did think in that moment too, I was like, okay, like I get it, it's a callback to that other casino scene. But also like as his last words. But I guess it is just almost like the arrogance thing of like how he sees himself and then is just instantly killed.
Yeah, well, it's just sort of like he's an enemy to all, so like he's like, yeah, I don't play by the rules, I'm an outcast. That's just his character type.
I don't fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen that clip from Riverdale?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was
I've
quoting.
watched
Yeah.
all of
That's-
Riverdale. Thank
I'm
you
weird.
very much.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in. Fucking Cole Sprouse, like beautiful human being with a hat, is like, I don't
Yeah.
fit
Oh,
in.
but my hat's weird.
Yeah,
so I
my
don't fit
hat's
in.
weird. My name's Jughead. And I have a friend named Archie.
Archie.
What the fuck is... Anyway, another
Short
day.
for Archibald?
Yeah.
Archibald, I hope. Is that actually what it's short for?
Yeah.
I mean, what else could it be short for?
I didn't think they ever explained it, to be
Archer?
honest with you. Archer, yeah. Okay. As we come towards the end of Hell or High Water, I will turn it to you guys if you guys have any last thoughts, but I'd like to play a game first.
Okay.
Ooh.
I have a Lord of the Rings reference in each of these movies. Okay? and I would like to see if you guys can guess what the reference is I'm thinking of. So let's start with Hell or High Water. Can you guess?
The movie references it?
No, like, there's something, an element in this movie that reminds me of something in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
There's no way, I don't think you guys are going to get it.
Unintentionally, though? Probably.
Unintentionally,
I mean,
100%
I'm
unintentionally.
definitely not going to get it, considering I watched them one time over a year ago.
Yeah, but we podcasted about them for an hour and a half, Carol. How could you not remember?
1 hour and 18 minutes.
Yeah, 1 hour, and like I'm pretty sure 18 minutes of that was us fucking around.
We're already at 57 minutes of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first like 20 minutes of that premiere episode was just us figuring out how to host.
Yeah, it was
We were
wild.
just like, wow, we have a podcast.
Look at us. This is interesting though. Is it towards the end, you said? Or anywhere through the movie?
I don't want to give it away.
What act is it in?
It's something that is like through the movie.
Oh.
It's not like in a specific scene.
So it's like an aspect
Yes.
that reminds you of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Well, there's no talking trees. That's the only thing I remember about those movies.
Yeah. So for everyone keeping track at home, we've eliminated talking trees from the list of things.
Cool.
Like I'm trying to think how general to go with this concept that you're thinking of.
I think the one in Wind River you'll definitely get. Because that one is a scene. But
It's a scene,
let's
yeah.
start with Hell or High Water since we're talking about it.
I don't even know where to begin, honestly.
Is it that
Okay,
there's
I
just
will-
a lot of commuting? Because they drive a lot.
No, it's not the commuting. Although both these movies do have a lot of commuting. It's, and stick with me. You guys are going to say, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay.
Okay, it's the score.
Oh.
But
made a weird
stick with me. This is why I said stick with me. First of all, let me just say, we haven't talked about it yet. I really love the score
It
and
is a
the
good score.
soundtrack to this movie. I think the instrumental score and I think the like needle drop songs played in this movie are very good. I think they help set the vibe. But like the main Hell or High Water theme has like a few notes at the beginning played on strings that reminds me exactly of the Riders of Rohan intro to the theme. It's like they both have this weird played on
Oh my
strings.
God, you're right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Now I know what
Okay,
you're
there
talking
was
I'm gonna edit
no
it-
way on earth I was
Carol.
going to get that.
Well, I was mostly asking Dan, to be
I was
honest with
thinking
you.
something
Carol.
visual, but that
Yeah.
is a good point.
I am gonna edit it into this part of the podcast. You guys listen back.
Okay.
And I listened today at work. I was like, am I fucking crazy? And I played them side by side, and I was like, no, they kind of sound the same.
When I was watching, like, I guess now that I think about it, the score did sound strangely familiar, and I hear it now.
It's the
listening to
Riders
it.
of Rohan theme.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, that being said, good score.
Great.
Really good score.
Love it. I actually have it on Spotify. I listen to it sometimes, and I think it adds to like just the atmosphere. Again, like I know this is so weird to say because it's literally just Texas in like 2016, but like it feels like a fucking sci-fi world or something.
I mean,
like
yeah, Texas isn't like a normal place.
no, but I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate both the drama and humor of it at the same time. I think they nail it. I think I've said my piece of this movie. I really love this movie. Do you guys have any other like details you want to throw in there before we move on?
Details.
Can I say my favorite joke?
Sure.
It's when Jeff Bridges is interviewing the lady who worked at the very first bank they robbed, or maybe it wasn't Jeff Bridges, maybe it was his partner, but that's irrelevant. Either way, she's being interviewed, and they're trying to ask her like, could you tell their race, or like were they like dark or light, and and she goes, their skin or their souls.
Yeah, that was very like whimsical.
Yeah. I like just on this note. I just want to throw in
I
when
think she
Jeff
was my
Bridges
favorite
is
character.
She's a really good actress. I've seen her in other stuff. She's like a bit actress, like character actress. She's been in a lot of other
She was
stuff.
in Breaking Bad, right?
Yes, she's the meth head. And
that's
she's
the only other place I've seen her in.
She's also in that show I talked about, Them, which is like that horror show about racism or whatever that's not very good.
Yeah.
But
we talked about that on the Booksmart.
we talked about that naturally on the Booksmart episode. She's in that, and she plays like the most vile human being I've ever seen in my life.
Nice.
And she's very good. But I just wanted to what you're talking about. I think a lot of the interviews in the bank are funny, and I like when he's interviewing the young girl, and he's like, "What kind of car do they drive?" And she's like, "I don't know anything about cars." And he's like, "Was it good or was it a piece of shit?" And she was like, "It's a piece of shit." And he's like, "Great, now we're getting somewhere."
Yeah,
I like that.
I also like, just while we're talking about details, towards the end or at the end when he kills Tanner, like when he snipes him, and then he turns to the guy who he borrowed the gun, and he just starts slapping him.
He's just like soft hand slapping him.
This complete stranger.
He's like, "You see that? You see that?" And he just starts slapping him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think we've pretty much talked about like the end when he like goes to Toby's house and like they have the classics confrontation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ended ambiguously. Yeah, just really solid watch.
Yeah.
Very good character drama.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, great
Yeah,
movie. I would say like.
Am I gonna go
Continue.
first? Okay.
Yes.
I do want to say that when I watched it, still definitely not my vibe. But talking about it, I am appreciating it more, and it is. I think Marco, you maybe said it best that upon first watch, it was like, yeah, good Oscar movie, like sick, But probably upon more watches, I'd enjoy it more.
Yes.
So
I would say
I don't hate it.
Yeah, no. I would say to both of you and anyone listening that's maybe either not seen it or only seen it once, like, throw it on.
Yeah.
Every year, throw it on. And I think, like, there's just...
Good holiday watch.
It's a good holiday. Right, Christmas time, pour yourself some eggnog, throw on Hell or High Water. I think you'll get more out of it. But this is also part of the reason why, like, a little bit behind the scenes here, I was kind of talking today in the chat about you guys watching Goodfellas prior to us watching it together for the selection, because like a lot of times with movies like that, like there's so much like plot mechanics that you're getting used to, but like what's really interesting about it is the small silly dumb moments. So like when we talk about Goodfellas, I am only going to be talking about just the hilarious shit. Like I don't even care about the plot, like it's just the fucking hysterical Italian shit in that movie. So anyway,
I'm looking forward to it.
We'll talk about the plot a little. Like the basics,
a little,
at least.
Marginally,
but it's a like similar to this, Carol. You were like, this is just a cops and robbers movie.
Yeah.
Like Goodfellas is just a mafia. Like a guy is in the mafia, and then bad things happen. Like they're all basically the same. But what makes that movie stand out is like it's Martin Scorsese being an absolute sick badass. Like at his absolute best, just fucking shit up. Anyway, let's move on to Wind River.
Yeah. Well, just before we I just want to say I think, if I'm not mistaken, I guess all three of us kind of had a similar experience the first time we watched this movie.
Yeah.
Because we were all like, it's a perfectly good movie, maybe not anything amazing.
Yeah.
But then, like, at least for me and Marco, who have gone on to watch it again, we're like, we appreciate it more with each viewing. And if you watch it again, Carol, it might be the same way. So, like,
I think
that's just sort of how it goes the first time anyone watches this movie.
I think so. Because I think, I think ultimately what it is that there's a little bit of almost like being stunned by how simple it is the first time you watch it.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to figure out what it is and you're like, wait a minute, this is just really simple. But I think then the more you watch it and know what it is, you just like chill in the
That's the thing. I think my biggest
of it.
issue is I kind of felt like it was familiar. Like I was like, like I've seen this story before.
Right.
Because it is just like family down on their luck. Like another family member comes to help, like so that all felt super familiar, and I was I think distracted by that, and I was like, what's special about it?
Yes.
But at the same time recognizing like it was really well made and did have unique qualities about it, but just like that from the beginning was like a bit jarring because I was like, I feel like I've seen this before, but obviously I hadn't.
Yeah, and what's funny is like the more I've watched it, I think, I mean, I don't know Taylor Sheridan, but if I had to guess, I would say that is probably the point, I think, to some degree, is it is this familiar, incredibly simple story, but I'm going to write it in a way that gives it, like, modern-day depth and, like, make it in a way that makes it, like, good, if that makes sense, and modern.
It's not like anything, it may not be anything really completely new, but it's done very well, and it is sort of like, it's like if spaghetti westerns are two-dimensional. This is like a three-dimensional western.
Yeah.
It's like basically what you said. It's reviving westerns for the modern day expectations of what a drama should be.
Absolutely.
And not just a very surface level cops and robbers type thing.
Yeah.
Also, Carol, when you said family, it's about family. I thought about two things.
I know one of them.
Star Wars and Fast and Furious.
I knew Fast and Furious.
And I knew Star Wars, so there you go.
And that's why this podcast works.
That's how this podcast works. Okay, so let's talk about Wind River now, as we should talk about. So I gave the outline at the beginning. We all said we think this movie's well made, good, but, there's some stuff in there.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about it. Maybe we should get it out of the way, because it is kind of the elephant in the room with this movie. And then we can talk, some specific funny scenes we want to talk about or whatever.
Funny.
There's funny scenes in this. All my notes are on funny things. I only make notes on funny things, okay?
I will say this movie, I had a lot less jokes noted.
It's not as funny.
Yeah.
Definitely not. But when I say funny, I mean more like observations I made that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Not like the scene's intentionally funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just make myself laugh because I'm a narcissist. So, so there is a very uncomfortable rape scene in this movie. So I should say, to give a little bit of context here, right? All we know is that this young woman has died. Jeremy Renner is a hunter on this reservation, finds her body. Ultimately, once the FBI, Elizabeth Olsen, gets there, they discover she's been raped. So, right off the bat already, that is a little bit like, okay, rape, dead woman plotline.
Yeah.
Never great when that's sort of like your inciting incident is just to like kill a woman and then have a guy have to like avenge her. Although it's not as bad. At least in this one, it is a bit more like character driven because she has a daughter that's gone through the similar thing. So it's not the typical like bravado guy, like I must avenge my woman because someone's like defiled her. It's not like that. But anyway, that was already kind of odd. Or not odd, but just like, oof. Yeah. And then you get to oof, if that's what it was. Now, I will say, because we don't know what happens. We haven't had a flashback. We haven't had jack shit. All we know is
the movie starts just with a woman running through the snow, like very quickly, and then like collapsing. And interestingly, then it just cuts to, the storyline with Jeremy Renner. And for a second, like, one of my early notes is like, are we gonna go back to that one? Like, what was that about? And then we do, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
But yeah,
it really takes its time getting there.
Yeah.
But I like how along the way, even as we're getting more details and stuff, we don't get the flashbacks like happen concurrently.
Yeah.
Like we are just strictly following this plot until the one moment, which I noted down that I think is a really, really cool story moment.
Yeah.
Where they get to the, I guess, RV.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you would call that. Trailer. RV. They get to the trailer
that
where
for a second.
It happens.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Olsen knocks on the door, and then you cut to the inside of the trailer where you see who else but John Barenthal, everyone's favorite, go to open the door. Yep. But it turns out this is now a flashback, and they've transitioned into the flashback.
That was super clever. Initially, I was like, oh, this guy's in everything. Yes. But then they called him by the name of her boyfriend, and I was like, hold on, that guy's dead.
He's dead in the snow. Yeah, and, so...
Very, very clever, non-traditional use of flashback.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. And then, again, we just stay with that flashback for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We don't cut away until we cut back to the end of the movie, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We'll talk about I really love the end of the movie.
I was not expecting that.
I know. It's great. It's fucking rad. But anyway, so we cut to the flashback where John Barenthal is just evidently the nicest person ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nicest oil worker ever.
But that's what I mean. That already, to me, was like, he's like this guy who you've set up because of expectations. Like you have an idea in your head of what this character is going to be, right? But instead, the movie has to go so far to show you that like, no, he's actually great, and like he's so supportive and nice, and they're going to move away and have a life together.
Well, yeah, because even if like without context, people wouldn't expect that like an oil worker, just in general, living in this secluded area near reserve would be a piece of shit. They also like had characters being like, she's dating this white guy, we don't know him, we don't trust, like, so the whole time you're like, probably bad news, just to like give reason for you to not like him. And like,
for sure,
in our timeline he's dead, so until that we're like, I guess that's what we have to believe.
Yeah, for sure. It almost, like, I get it, because they're trying to set these guys up to be like, oh, they actually care about each other. That way, like, what happens is sadder.
Yeah.
But to some degree, going back to Hell or High Water with the whole, like, the situation in the hotel room with the woman or whatever, it's almost like it doesn't matter that he's nice.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of silly. Not silly, but I was kind of questioning, I think, on this rewatch, like, why we spend so much time showing he's not an asshole when ultimately he is, like, even if we didn't do that, he's not responsible for what happened.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't really matter that he was good or not. Like, he could have just been a normal person that died. But instead, he has to be, like, the greatest white oil worker working on a reservation you've ever met in your life. Just, like, the best.
Yeah, it was. I also found that kind of weird, especially because, like, I guess the whole point of the movie was to just raise awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous women, apparently. Yeah, still very bizarre.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he doesn't want to make all oil workers, like, mad? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Here's what I think. I think it wasn't, like, it wasn't to make his character look good. It was for the sake of showing us that, like, Natalie had prospects before this horrible thing happened to her. Like, she could have had a great life with him had things not gone wrong. Had they not both died that night, and, like, you know, everything that happened. So it wasn't to build his character up as being, like, this great character to root for. That doesn't matter. It's for her sake.
Right. Okay, I guess that makes sense.
That is actually a good point.
Because
I do like that.
Because if it had turned out that she was also just dating some random unrelated, like, asshole who didn't do that to her, but, like, also was still mean, like, I'm not saying it would have been as tragic. Obviously, it still would have been tragic, but, like, that this way it
makes the fall greater.
Yeah.
It makes the fall greater, but also it suggests that, like, this guy took away that, like, even that much more from her.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Good call.
I
respect it. And also, I just like seeing John Barenthal and stuff.
Yeah. And it was, you know, it was a very interesting twist, like, finding out that he wasn't the...
Yeah.
Like, the villain, I guess.
Because they do prop him up to be like, oh, she was dating this white guy and whatever. But yeah, it turns out...
And especially with that, like, twist of, like, the flashback that we were talking about.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, that's him. We're closing out.
Yeah. Yeah, good
it's
call.
It's not what you think at all.
Yeah, so they're there, and then the other oil workers come back, and they're all very drunk and fucked up. And... You know, I'm going to have to go into gratuitous detail, but it leads to a very long, relatively speaking, but pretty long, like, rape scene.
Yeah.
And which
also, like, just very violent fight between the boyfriend and literally everyone else.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
So, not to bring up them again...
The show,
because for whatever reason the show only comes up in the context of double feature episodes. I don't know why.
That's true. Yeah,
book smart and now this. Something I had talked about with that show was how, like, the point is, like, to see the racism, and, like, it's supposed to be bad. Obviously, like, nobody's showing racism for the sake of rooting for racism, but then it gets to a point where it's like we're just watching a lot of racist stuff, like, and it gets hard to watch. And I know there's been a lot of, like, discourse in the modern era about, like, showing rape at all in movies, or even just, like, using it as a plot line, where it is kind of like, even if the point is that it's awful, like, does it do more harm than good to, like, have it be out there? Which is, like, a, you know, fair enough conversation to have. I do think it goes too far in this movie, though, like, or not too far, but it's like we already know she's been raped and killed. I don't know why we need to actually see it, like, fully, like, you can suggest it and then cut back to the modern day, I feel like.
Especially after we established that other guy that we haven't seen before, when he comes into the trailer, it's, like, pretty obvious that he was the one who did it even before we see it.
Yeah.
And
I'd have to agree.
Go, Dan. I didn't want to cut you off.
I was just gonna say I agree. That's it.
Yeah, and I think my biggest issue is that I'm all for raising awareness for this issue, but the fact that it's this white man and like you can raise the issue without having it be graphic. Like this is not your story to tell. Like, yeah, we all know, or like maybe we don't all know, and that's why he wanted to make this movie, but like, you know, people know that this is an issue and the community's being affected by it. If they want to tell stories about it and like go into detail because that like helps them like heal or process, like go for it. But why does this random white man from Texas be like, you know what I need to write? This movie about an indigenous woman who gets raped and murdered, and then I want to write a really long, disgusting scene of the rape. I think that's the way to convey the message, and I don't think that was necessary.
Yes, and I think this leads to a conversation that like has been happening a lot lately about what, like, letting people tell their own stories. Mm-hmm. And I think, okay, so like if Taylor Sheridan wants to write a story about this white dude hunter on a reservation who has to work with an FBI person to solve a murder because that's just a fun setting to tell a story, like that's one thing. But I do think it starts off like that, right? Like I think at the beginning it is more just like this murder mystery and what's happening. But then I think like with this scene, and then especially by the end of the movie where the dad and Jeremy Renner are sitting, and then you get the title card about like so many people are affected by this and yada yada, and it does almost feel like why are you doing, like you could have just like had a movie set in this setting without making the entire subject of the movie be this one central thing that like someone else should probably be talking about, if that makes sense. And
you know what, another thing that another genuine problem I do have with this movie is I understand this is based off true events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even then, he said it's not even specific true events. It's just because so many indigenous
it's just
women...
like a general...
It's just the general concept. Yeah.
So all the more then, the fact that it stars two white people, I think definitely could have...
Yes.
Like, it does not fit the theme of the movie. And also...
Correct.
Just, like, when the credits start rolling at the end... Like, that title comes up that you're talking about, and then the first two names before the title of the movie is Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, it is very, like, white savior.
Yes.
And it's weird. Yeah, and it's so fascinating to me because, again, like, maybe there is a version of this movie that is about how, like, the white savior trope is bad.
Sure.
And, like, that's fair enough, but, again, like, that's not the movie... clearly that he was trying to make, or that someone like him should be making. Like if he's going to make this movie, just make a straightforward murder mystery in this setting. But I almost feel like what happened was, again, I'm always just guessing. I don't know. I always say these things and I have no idea. But I kind of almost feel like what happened was he thought it would be a good setting and then just wrote a more straightforward murder mystery. But then maybe kind of felt like if I don't address it in a more head-on way, people are going to say like, oh, look at this dumb white guy that doesn't understand.
I think so.
And so he like tried to tackle the issue, because by all accounts he's not like a piece of shit. So I do think genuinely he was trying to tackle the issue in like a good faith way. I mean, fucking tomorrow, as of recording this, he could be canceled for something. I don't know,
this
but
is
like
the case with everything and everyone.
Exactly, as we say, as of November 10th, 2021, 8:53 p.m. 8. Jesus, that could have been a big deal. As of 8:35 p.m.
10 minutes from now.
10 minutes from now, he could be canceled. As of 8:35 p.m. recording this, I think this was just a good faith attempt to take what was probably a more simple murder mystery and like, oh, maybe let me use it to like shed awareness. But I don't think it works 100. I don't think it by any means like ruins the movie, but I just think it is this weird elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be like really curious to know if he like ran the story or script. Of course, as I'm speaking, someone's really loudly revving their engine outside my window.
It's probably Taylor Sheridan, because he just got canceled and he's running away from the angry mob.
I would be really interested to know
I guess he lives
if
in
he ran
Ottawa now.
the script by like any indigenous women. Because I don't know. I imagine like, I don't know, just as a woman, period, watching the rape scene was super like triggering and traumatic, and it's like not like my community. Like this isn't. I mean, like women, I guess, are my community, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, and
it's weird.
I would have to think that he did.
Like you'd love to think but you'd be
like to think that he
surprised.
But it's also okay. But here's the other thing too that's tough is like which people did he run it by? Because
like
I can turn on the TV. I can turn on the TV right now and find no shortage of like black people that support Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Not to make this political, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so I ran it by two
yeah.
indigenous women who have like, just because they're indigenous doesn't mean they like are necessarily have their finger on the pulse about like
That's true.
what's going on and what's the best thing.
Yeah,
so
that's definitely true.
yeah, I don't know. But into like to the white savior thing, I think, yeah, it's just it's frustrating to like still see that trope sometimes.
Yeah.
And what's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, but
That's okay.
With Dune, that just came out, a lot of people were complaining about, oh, it's just another white savior or whatever, and it's so funny, and I can't wait until like hopefully we get more sequels to continue the story, because like Dune is fundamentally about how white saviorism is bad. He literally comes to help these people as their messiah and then fucks everything up. Like that's what Dune is about. But again, like, is that what this movie's about? No, because like they just succeed at the end and kill this guy, and then the Native American father is like, thank you. And it's like, okay.
Thank you, white savior.
Thank you, white savior. and then we get a title card about this is awful and should never happen, and then we cut to black, and it's like, okay. Weird.
I was trying to remember what I was going to say, though.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. Oh, no, I remember. I was just going to say, like, I guess that all of this is really what makes Wind River the more, like, problematic one of the two.
Yeah.
It's definitely, in my mind, like, the more controversial one.
Mm-hmm.
I still do think, though, whether appropriate or not, the inclusion of these, like, of the message of this is pertinent today.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's why this one emotionally sticks with me more.
Sure.
Rather than Hell or High Water. Even if, like we were talking about, it could have been handled by someone different.
Yeah.
But, you know, the existence of it isn't necessarily all negative. I think there are benefits to it being here, at least.
Yeah.
Even if, like you suggested, maybe it would have been better as just, like, an undertone of the whole movie rather than, like, the overt message of the movie. I think that probably would have been a better path to take. But
it just feels like a half measure. It's like either make it more of an undertone or like fully commit the other way and maybe bring on indigenous people to like help you make this movie and really make it about that. But right now it sort of feels like caught in between.
Yeah.
Which
it feels like, it feels like maybe he wrote like an entire version of the script without it, and then in the second draft it was like the afterthought that he kind of went back and retroactively fit in.
That's kind of the vibe I get personally, but again, I mean, we don't know. But it just like, okay, so it's like, yeah, a lot of it does feel that way. It almost feels like it was just a murder mystery about this guy dealing with the death of his daughter, and then it was like, but what if it was Native American, and what if he had a Native American wife and his daughter was one of the Native American women that like was subject to this, and it's like, okay, like again, it's not strictly a bad idea, and it doesn't, I don't think, make this movie like not worth watching or anything. But you know, it is what it is. It's just like one of those things that people should just be aware of, I think, before watching this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great movie, but you know, I mean, the first time I watched it with Madison because I remember hearing it was good, and also we're both just like obsessed with Elizabeth Olsen right now. We both have like major crushes on her.
The
WandaVision era, as you couldn't tell. I mean, I literally, like, she dressed up as Scarlet Witch for Halloween, so, like, clearly we are both very into Elizabeth Olsen right now. But we had watched this movie whenever, and, yeah, it was just weird, like, to get to that rape scene and have her be like, oh, God, do we have to keep watching this movie? And, like, I don't like telling stories like that just because it's the thing of, like, well, I have a black friend that said it's okay, I said the N-word. Like, I don't like telling those anecdotal stories because it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but, you know, it just sucks because it is a good movie, and like, for example, she was really enjoying the movie, and then you get to that scene and it's like, fuck, okay, let's just fast forward through this and like not focus on it. So
but at least like the rapist gets his dues at the end
in a very satisfying way.
It is
like,
very rewarding.
At least there was
part.
that.
Yeah, like after that very hard to watch scene, we lead right into this this is like you go back to like the revenge story, and it's very satisfying.
So good.
This movie was more of a Western, in my opinion. There were more horses. There were more hats.
More standoffs.
Yeah.
More Mexican
so
standoffs.
Many standoffs.
So many scenes from The Office of everyone being like...
Yes. I mean, that's
very
great
good.
for the podcast. Point back and forth in the camera.
You get it. Everyone knows. Everyone was mentally picturing.
Make wavy sounds in front of the mic.
I love we cut back to the outside of the trailer, and the one oil rig guy is like, I forget what the main bad guy's name is. Is it like starts with a C, I think. Is it like Chad? It's not Chad.
It's not.
I'm just gonna call him Chad. He's
Corey.
like Chad. Corey.
No, Corey's the main character.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Corey, get him. Yeah, no, I see that now. No, I don't know.
Okay, Chad. So
what's John Bernthal's name?
Matt?
Matt.
Mm-hmm. Matt Rayburn.
Yeah, I cannot remember.
I have a full name for
Matt
you.
Rayburn.
Wow.
I cannot remember the name of the actual guy. But whatever. Chad.
So Chad is like inside the trailer still, and Elizabeth Olsen is like standing at the door, knocking on the door, whatever, and then the one guy is like, Chad, like, FBI's here, she's standing outside the door, open up, and I fucking love that moment when the sheriff is like, get out of the way, and then the shotgun goes off and she gets blown up, and like the first time I watched this movie I was like, oh, she's dead.
Yeah.
Holy shit, they just killed Elizabeth Olsen. I thought it was like the scene from
Elizabeth Olsen.
I was like, Scarlet Witch? It was like that scene. It reminded me though, like, of the scene in Hell or High Water with the partner getting shot. Oh. And I was like, oh my god, so did they just kill her? I'm like, thankfully she's not. I mean, she gets to survive to the end. Yeah. But I was like, Jesus Christ. And then, you know, a whole gunfight ensues.
I feel like if she had died, I would have liked this movie a lot less.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because, like, she's the main female character, especially.
Yeah.
Killing her off would have probably been not a great choice. But yes. And also just, like, you know, love Lizzie Olsen.
Yeah, Liz Olsen.
Very charismatic.
The best of the Olsens. Who would have thought? Who would have thought like 20 years ago best of the Olsens?
I feel bad for the other twins because they were child actors.
Yeah, fuck them. What have they done? Are they in the MCU? What?
It's a really hard stance to take. You don't even know them.
Yeah, fuck the Olsen twins. Nah, I don't like them.
Okay.
I'm just saying I feel bad for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Marco says no, fuck them.
Fuck them. So let's since we're at the end, let's talk about the end and then we'll jump back. No. Well, let's finish the end. So Jeremy Renner, obviously Hunter Supreme, is just sniping these guys off like it's a game of Call of Duty. He's just fucking picking them off.
That's what bothers me though. He goes up there for a vantage point. He only ends up killing like a couple of them after everyone's dead.
Everyone's dead, and then he like kills like 2 of them.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then he chases down Chad. Mm-hmm. We still don't know what his name is. And I like the scene, takes him to like the super remote area, leaves him there, and he's like, you need to like tell me what you did, and I won't kill you. And Chad confesses, and he's like, okay, like true to my word, I won't kill you, but
I don't have to save you.
Okay, listen, there are 3 things I wrote down. One of them, I won't kill you, but I don't
murder.
No, he didn't, but you know what? Chad says, just give me a chance. Just give me a chance.
What about my uncle?
All I thought was, what about my uncle? Did you give him a chance? Did you? And then Jeremy Renner responds with, I'll give you the same chance she had.
Yeah.
And then in my head, I went, 50-50, because of fucking Two-Face from Dark Knight.
That's true.
So this scene is just like 17 different scenes in one, but...
We haven't even talked about the Lord of the Rings reference yet.
Oh, we'll get there. But that made me laugh, was just, give me a chance, I'll give you the same chance she had. I was like, this is 2 references I make all the time.
Yeah.
Put together next to each other.
That being said, this is a badass scene.
Great.
I love when he puts the gun next to his head, and he's like, I want you to run. And then he shoots it, and it like rings in his ear.
Fucking wild. It's so good.
He's Batman in this scene.
He is. This is like my favorite Jeremy Renner scene ever of life. Yeah. Like, I've never liked him more than in this scene. I think he's
good
great
in this role. Like, he's a weirdo in real life, but he does a really good job in the role.
Yeah, I don't love him. Definitely not.
Chris Pine was almost in this role.
God damn it! That would have been so good!
That could have been really good.
Chris Pine and Elizabeth Olsen in this movie? Because that was the other thing that was throwing me off, was like, Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch interact all the time in the MCU. Yeah. It's not like they're just... Like, John Barenthal's the Punisher, but like, who fucking cares? These 2 are directly working together, and they directly work together in the MCU constantly. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, I have a science question for you guys because I am
Okay.
I am an engineer, of course, by trade, but I don't know a lot about biology or chemistry.
Sure.
Okay, so we spend a lot of time talking in this movie about how Natalie's so fucking just a fighter, and she made it like 6 miles in the snow or whatever before she died. Okay,
Without shoes on.
but then we find out that the cause of death was the capillaries in her lung freezing and bursting. Which is something that can happen when you're running, I guess, in sub-zero temperatures for too long. Whatever. And then this guy dies after like 10 seconds. And at the end, he's like, oh, it's because like he wasn't as much of a fighter. Or the implication is like, because this guy's a giant pussy, basically. Like that's basically the implication of it, is this guy's a coward.
Yeah.
Okay. Does your mental resolve in any way change the temperature at which your capillaries would freeze? Because I feel like, regardless of Natalie's will to live, like, your capillaries freeze whenever they freeze, right? Am I crazy?
Well,
Like, I get the symbolism. I love the symbolism that she was a fighter and this guy's a coward, but like...
but the thing is, it's all dependent on how quickly you're breathing.
Okay.
And she was, first of all, she was more fit than he was.
True.
She was younger, she was lighter.
Yeah.
So, like, you'd probably have to, what?
We should turn this into a physics problem.
I mean, just
If you weigh
scientifically, she'd probably have to breathe
232
less.
pounds.
And you were running at a speed of this many miles per hour.
Yeah, so she'd probably breathe generally a bit less. I know it's still like 6 miles is like a lot.
It's a lot.
Versus, like,
compared to 600
10 feet,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
a lot.
I don't know the imperial system. Imperial?
Imperial?
Imperial system.
Empirical?
Imperial.
Imperial? I don't know. This is fascinating.
Okay, well, I don't even know what
Hold
it's
on, I'm
called.
Googling it.
I don't know it.
I think it's empirical.
I don't know how to convert miles to like feet. Or whatever. He ran
Yeah, I
what,
don't know.
600 feet?
I don't know. I just threw numbers out there. I think it was 6 and 6, but it was like a different.
It's
I think it was like
imperial.
Imperial.
system. Okay.
Like the Imperial March.
Yeah, that's what it was named after.
That's what it was named after. It was named after a piece of music from Star Wars.
Yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I get your point.
I mean, I totally, like, I bring this up in a farcical way. Like, I
yeah,
completely get the scene, and I think it's a very nice scene. But science doesn't really add up there. That's a
That's a
it
valid
is what it
point.
is. Science is what it is. Facts don't care about your feelings, guys. I don't know if you've...
Stop.
Is that a reference to something?
To Ben Shapiro, yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my
Everyone's favorite human being, Ben Shapiro. I think he was on Joe Rogan again today.
Of course he was.
That's some of my favorite content on Earth.
You know what's funny though? When you said everyone's favorite human being, like when you said everyone's favorite, I wasn't sure what you're gonna say afterwards. And no matter what it was, I knew it was gonna be a joke. Because he's no one's favorite anything.
No, of course not. Of course.
Let alone human being.
No, he's the worst human being alive. But that's his famous phrase, is facts don't care about your feelings.
Oh.
So I'm sure if he reviewed this movie, that would probably be the first thing he talked about, was the science of that.
Well, actually,
hypothetically speaking. Anyway, so let's just talk about the rest of this movie now.
Okay,
Because we
back
already
to
talked
the
about the end. Oh, okay, also
guys,
wait.
let's do a strategic flashback.
Yeah, this is our flashback. No, but were you guys also concerned when he goes to the family's house at the end that they had committed suicide?
Yes.
Am I the only one? Okay.
Yeah, no, because when he went to the bedroom where he found the mother previously and she wasn't there, I was like, oh shit.
Yes, the first time I watched this movie, that is exactly what I thought. Actually,
I was like, oh no.
especially because they set it up that she
Was self-harm. Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised that she just didn't die after that scene. That was a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty
She's
horrific.
bleeding a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot of blood. But yeah, glad they weren't dead. That's good.
Me
At
too.
least.
That's good. Yeah. We should talk about Corey is the main character, we said, right?
I
No.
think so.
Yeah, Corey Lambert.
Corey
Which is
Lambert.
just the most, like...
Adam Lambert's younger brother?
We should talk about his son, though, I guess.
Sure.
Because we haven't really...
Do we have
Oh,
to?
I have a note about his son. I got a fucking
Do we
note
have
about
to?
his son.
Like, is his son
So,
relevant?
I mean, just we haven't mentioned yet.
He has
that,
a son.
he has a son who maybe he low-key hates because his son's alive, but his daughter's dead. I'm just kidding. That's not an implication whatsoever in the movie. But
It's like, in Hill House, the wrong parent.
Yeah, the wrong parent died.
The wrong child died.
The wrong child died. Okay, so I have another funny note here. Well, funny is a pejorative word. We'll see what you guys think. I think it's funny, but it's sad. The first scene, right? He goes to his estranged. I think him and his wife are estranged.
Yes.
What does estranged mean?
Just like they're not together.
So divorced?
But we don't know if they're
but not
officially
necessarily
divorced.
like
They could be on
they
the
might not
break.
be divorced.
Separated?
Yeah, they could be. They
Or
could
on
be
a
on a break.
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, that's
They're not.
good.
I think the implication is they're not together
I think
anymore.
that
But
is
he
true.
goes to pick up. He goes to pick up the son, and the son comes down the stairs with a BB gun, and he says, "Where's that gun pointed?" And the son immediately goes to like point it away, and he says, "Remember, treat every gun like a live gun, even if it's not." And all I could think was, someone should have told Alec Baldwin that.
Wow.
I was like, maybe Alec Baldwin should have watched this movie. Yeah, I know that's a terrible. It was the only. That was the only thing I could think of for like 10 minutes after that scene happened. So
Jesus.
I wrote down the actual quote. It was "Guns always loaded, even if it ain't." That
Yeah.
was the quote.
Oh,
There you
I also have that quote written down.
Probably for different reasons.
What are...
Yeah.
While we're on the topic...
Well, also my note before that, and I have no idea why I wrote it, is he has a son named Casey. Ha ha. I don't know why.
Man, fuck Casey's. Just Casey's around the world. Get wrecked.
I really don't get it.
I love that.
Poor kid.
Uh,
Okay, while we're on this topic, though,
yeah.
do you want to... You said you have, like, a list of, like, funny-ish things.
Okay.
Do you want to go through those now?
Sure.
Funny being in quotes, by the way.
Yeah, I did say in quotes. Okay, let me get my shit
No,
together.
I mean, because I did the, like, they can't see that I did.
Oh, I meant it in quotes as well. When I told you I had funny things, these are in. I don't even know what this one note means. I don't even know. Okay, anyway, so here's a few funny things. So first of all, that joke I just made me laugh when I thought of it, even though it's very sad that someone was killed, unfortunately, and it's very traumatic, but also, come on. Okay, so here's the second point. Now, this isn't necessarily a funny thing about this movie, but it's something that I just hate in fiction, and I'm so fucking sick of, and I just need to rant about it with you guys, okay? And this is a literary device that goes back to motherfucking Shakespeare, okay?
Motherfucking Shakespeare.
Everyone's favorite.
All right.
William B. Shakespeare. I don't know if B was his middle name, but here's the thing. If I have to hear one more person tell a protagonist that there's a big storm coming before something happens traumatically in their life, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Okay? I am so sick of a big storm coming being this like fucking metaphor that every movie has for like, and now we're about to get to some really messed up shit. Who cares? Why do we need to talk about the weather? Stop talking about the weather. I don't care that there's a big storm coming. This is the most overused literary device ever. It constantly takes me out of the movie because all I think about is the Pink Panther when he's always trying to talk about the weather to like distract people, and he's like, wonderful weather we're having today.
Oh, you're talking about the Steve Martin.
Oh yeah, the Steve Martin Pink
Yeah, of
Panther.
course.
Yeah, of course, naturally. Like, it's just, I don't care. Like, it's like fucking Harry Potter, you know what I mean? The 5th Harry Potter movie before they go to the Ministry of Magic. Hagrid's like, big storm coming. Like, there's always a big
No,
storm.
he doesn't say that though. He's like things are changing out there.
Oh yeah, whatever. But then it cuts to a big storm.
Yeah.
So the implication is that there's a big storm. And then in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I don't know if you guys noticed, but that whole movie, it's raining until the very end when the apes are on their own and finally the sun comes out. And it's like, okay, like I get weather as a metaphor for what's going on, but like, stop. Like, I just don't care.
It'll
Also-
make your movie cheaper anyway.
Well, it truly,
At the very
truly.
least.
Like, just please, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Here's why they might do that though, especially in CGI heavy movies. Rain makes it easier to render.
100%. Yeah,
That
yeah,
might
yeah.
be a big reason.
It's-
Also, another example is in Dark Knight Rises when Anne Hathaway literally tells him a storm is coming.
There's a storm coming, you better
Right.
batten down the hatches.
Yes, right
Yeah.
before he loses all of his money and all of his possessions.
I'm so sick of that line of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason I hate it is because I've seen that trope be done well. Like, my favorite episode of The West Wing centers around this, like, unprecedented tropical storm. But, like, it's worked into the story in such, like, a narratively satisfying way. There's other examples, and like I know I threw the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes thing out there as a joke. I actually don't mind that. I like that the whole movie is kind of like depressed and fucked up, and then once Caesar like comes out on top and whatnot, like the sun comes out. Like I respect that. I think that's, and they never call attention to it, obviously because they're apes. They're not sitting around talking about the weather, but like I like that, and it can work as a narrative device. But it's just that when it's so explicit and it's so on the nose, it's
it feels like it was just an afterthought. Like, hey, let's also just make it raining.
Yeah.
Or snowing in this case.
I guess snowing in this case.
But I guess I get your point in general. I guess it kind of works with this movie too, though, narratively, because the snow is supposed to cover up like the tracks from where she came from. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
But definitely, like in general, that trope is very overused. 100% agree.
Also, in this one, it gives them like a time limit because like all the tracks for all of the evidence disappear.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's worked into the story fine, but it's just like.
I get you though.
Just say
even just the line.
Just say it. Don't say, "Oh, there's a big storm." Just stop.
Storms a coming.
Yeah, I hate the explicit statement of it. Like the fact that there is a storm, I feel like just talking for myself doesn't personally bother me. But when someone's like, storm's coming.
Like we can see the storm.
I'm like, ugh.
You just showed a shot of the storm.
They can look out the window.
Exactly.
You know?
And I also hate how it's always like just straight down the fucking camera, like this is a moment, you know what I mean? Like everyone stop because this character is about to tell us that something's gonna happen,
and
like
then take a swig of alcohol afterward.
It's fucking ridiculous. It just like, not to be rude, but it feels like something Zack Snyder would do. Do you know what I mean? It just feels so overly like dramatic for like I can imagine in one of those movies someone being like, big storm coming right before something. See that. You know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah. So that was that note. Okay, then I have the Lord of the Rings note, which we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. And I guess my last true funny note is just, I like when they go to Natalie's brother's crack house where they're living, and the one guy like pepper sprays the sheriff and Elizabeth Olsen, and then he goes, "Oh, watch the back." And this isn't even just necessarily funny as much as it is just also like cool and badass and character building. Is that Jeremy Renner, totally fucking calm and in control, just looks around, grabs a shovel, and then just waits by the door, and as soon as they walks out, just smacks him in the head with a shovel. Yeah. And it's like a slapsticky moment, but I really like that. I just think it's like a really fun, and like it adds a little bit of levity, I think, to the movie. Yeah, because it's just like it's just silly. It's just like a silly way. It's like something Bugs Bunny would do.
Well, I like that he only hits one of them, and the other guy trips over the body.
Yeah, it's silly. It's just funny. I appreciate anytime you can get a silly moment. I like that. Oh, we should really talk about this when we were talking about the problematic stuff, I guess. But I'm just gonna put it in here because it's also just kind of random and silly, and I don't know why it's in the movie. We were talking about this earlier, Dan. But like, Elizabeth Olsen, when she first shows up, has to like get new clothes. Oh. And then she like goes inside the house, and the mother is giving her new clothes, and she starts to warn her about like, be careful with these because like it'll make your underwear right up your butt. And then like Elizabeth Olsen stands up, and you just like get a full shot of her ass in a thong. Yeah. And then the mother sees it and goes like, "Oh, I guess it's not gonna be a problem for you."
Yeah, I don't know why that was there.
I am flummoxed as to why this is in the movie.
Yeah.
Other than to show Elizabeth Olsen's ass.
Yeah. That was.
It was kind of funny, but yeah, unnecessary, but kind of good joke.
It was for the joke. I laughed. But like, I feel like this caliber of movie is above that.
Like you
and
could
also like from Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah,
seemed weird.
That's the weird. It's like you could even do that joke and just not see her in a thong. You know what I mean? Like we don't as an audience we're not stupid. Like you could just have the mother turn and just watch her eyesight look down and look back up and make that joke, and we would all have gotten it.
Yeah,
like. I don't know.
It kind of reminded me of in Star Trek Into Darkness when there's the unnecessary bra scene.
Yes, with Alice Eve. Yes. That's the actress's name, whatever. Who's just like a notable, attractive woman, and there's just a scene where she's just changing
for no reason,
and she's just in a bra, and it was like all over the trailers and shit.
You could have extracted it from the movie entirely, and it would have changed. Like the plot didn't need it at all.
And it's weird because it's just like I don't know. I mean, it's just weird. It's just why
something to note.
Why? Something to note, something I thought was funny. And then the only other note I have is the Lord of the Rings thing, so we can come back to that at the end if you guys want. What other notes do you guys have?
About, like, the whole movie?
Sure, we can just talk about anything. Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about the movie.
What was up with the lions? So he got called to the reservation specifically because he works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and so I guess his job is to, like, hunt problematic wildlife. And so there was a mountain lion hunting just, like, animals who don't want to be eaten, the usual.
Livestock.
And then, yeah. And then at the end, he finds them and doesn't kill them. Like, I know, like, they needed a motivation to get him there. And, like, it showed that, because the whole time he's like, technically my primary goal is to kill these lions, but, like, while I'm here, like, I might as well help you because I track, like, that's my whole thing. I track wild animals,
predators
so
or whatever.
Track this murderer or whatever. But yeah, then he sees them, and I know he gets distracted by all the commotion happening at the oil site and by the RV and whatever, but he could have just, like, real quick, like, also taken care of that problem. He was right there.
Pew pew.
Maybe he did.
See, I always kind of thought that he probably did, but, like, how do you just show someone killing animals in a movie and not have it be, like, fucked up?
Well, but the way that I saw it and then interpreted it is he saw them, like, all of them in their little den or whatever, and then he looked and saw commotion happening with all the oil people, and, like, I think they showed him just, like, walking to look at that more, because, like, he was like, oh shit, something's gonna go down, and, like, they need me.
No. What it was, so when he got to the cave with the lions, he noticed tracks from, like, the snow speeder thing, and he was like, uh-oh, they might be like conspiring here. There's something more to this that we don't know. That's what that was suggesting, I think. And then I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Mark, where, like, I just assume sometime after that off camera he probably did kill them just to finish the job. But I think, like, what's most important about the lions is just they're the parallel to the person who's hunting.
It's just a giant metaphor.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I did also think, like, oh, are we just gonna cut away before he kills them? And I guess we did. I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, like, want to see animals being shot necessarily.
Me either, but I also want to know that, like, now all the people and animals are protected from them.
Yeah, I assume that's probably what happened.
You would think. I would hope.
Okay.
I would hope he did his job.
Well, that was my biggest note.
This wasn't something I noted, but just remembered when we were talking about, since we're talking about Jeremy Renner and stuff, I do like, he does have a really nice moment with Natalie's dad when he first goes to see him, and he basically gives him the same speech that someone had given him or whatever, about you have to know two things. Like, the first thing is that, like, you'll never be whole again, and the second thing is that, like, once you accept that, you can start to let yourself, like, relive those happy memories or whatever. Anyway, there's, like, a little bit of a monologue he goes on, and I was like, I think this is the best I've ever seen Jeremy Renner act. I was like, good for you for, like, acting well in this scene. I appreciated that.
Yeah, because his whole point is, like, as soon as you let go of this pain associated with her, like, only then will you be able to think back on her with any sort of happiness at all.
Yeah.
So you can't do that to yourself. You gotta, like, cut it loose as soon as possible.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It's a nice moment.
All the performances in this movie are, like, really good, I think.
And the last movie, we talked about it,
but both movies.
Across the board, no one stood out to me as, like, what the fuck are you doing, so.
Oh, I do have a question. When did we find out that Jeremy Renner had a daughter who died? Because maybe I missed something earlier, but I was a bit confused when he went to Natalie's parents' house and the dad saw him and immediately started sobbing to him, and then they started talking about, like, how you deal with grief or whatever. Like, that was the first time that I clued in that he had a daughter that died. Mm-hmm. Did we find out before and I missed it?
No, I think that's the first time it's kind of made explicitly clear. Like, there are hints to, like, for example, the mother being like, I'm never going back to that reservation or whatever, but you don't really know exactly what happened. But I think that scene with the father is the first time it, like, becomes super clear. And then there was the scene later with Elizabeth Olsen, which, I don't know if it's just me, but that scene started off with some weird sexual tension. I was like, are these guys about to fuck? And then
Yeah,
it just...
I really was the whole time waiting for them to hook up.
Right? I was like, this is weird. I was like, I don't
get that at all.
Oh,
Really? I know. I was like, I assumed that it was going to end with them living happily ever after.
Me too. He like, I don't know, Kara. Maybe.
I mean,
maybe
he's
we're
old
just
enough
fucked
to be
up.
like her father.
Maybe we watched too many rom-coms.
That's the thing. That's the thing. But also, Dan, to your point, that's why I was like, please don't, because they like go there and he like offers her a drink and they're just like laughing and being like all like normal and nice together. And I was like, and I guess maybe it's because this movie's so fucking depressing that just two people like hanging out.
Yeah.
I was like, they must want to fuck, because I don't know, like nobody in these movies is normal. And then it just leads into him like telling the story about how his daughter was killed and just like being fucked up, and Elizabeth Olsen has to go to the washroom and like pull herself together because she's also fucked up. And I was like, I mean, I prefer this to them sleeping together, so you know. But yeah, that scene just had a weird trajectory for me, because I was like, I thought we were gonna go one way and we went a completely different direction with it. So whatever.
Oh, also, another thing of note.
Yes.
Elizabeth Olsen's name is Jane Banner. And I was like, in a movie with 2 Marvel stars,
Well, 3
you're
technically.
really going to give her the last
Yeah.
name of Banner and not have me distracted by thinking of Bruce Banner the whole time?
It's so distracting.
I heard the name Banner, and that's the first thing I thought of. I didn't realize that was her last name, though.
Yeah, Jane Banner.
There's so much Marvel shit in this movie. It's getting so hard to watch movies now.
Yeah.
Because, like, the
Well, we've
MCU
talked
is
about
so
this.
big. It's
I think
like,
last episode we talked about we should do like a bonus episode where we try and find any movie with absolutely no MCU connections.
Yeah.
At all.
But that is going to be impossible.
That's what's going to make it fun, though.
Yeah.
Because we'll keep coming up with things, and then one of us will be like, actually, nope, this person
Yeah,
is
it's
in
true.
one of these movies.
Just where the fun begins. Do you
Yeah.
guys have other notes on Wind River, or should we guess my Lord of the Rings scene?
I'm really anxious to find out what this is. I still, I don't have a guess, per se. I'm stumped.
Okay. Dan is snubbed. Now, I have given hints, Carol. Let me just say, because I don't know if the part where I give hints is going to be in the podcast. So let me say the hints I gave.
Okay.
The hints I gave are this. The scene I'm talking about in Wind River takes place after Elizabeth Olsen has shown up, after the body has been found, but before they actually go to the Crackhead Brothers' house to investigate. Okay? So there's like that little bit of window there when they're doing like the pre-investigation, almost. That's where the scene takes place. The scene in Lord of the Rings that I think it's congruent to takes place in The Two Towers, which is the second movie, in the first act of The Two Towers, and it's specifically the plot line with Aragorn and Legolas and that group of people. Okay? Those are the clues I have given. So I'm gonna give one last pause to see if either of you guys have a guess.
Okay, so first act of Two Towers means it's before they meet Gandalf again.
Oh, correct. Yes.
So it's just Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn.
Yes.
And that's obviously before they get to Rohan at all.
Oh yeah.
So this is very early.
It's very early in their flying. Two
Is it them talking about, how they're talking about, what are any of these people's names? Corey's skill at hunting. And how he's just a born hunter. And
yes.
The shooty guy is a born shooty guy. I don't know any of those.
It wasn't. No.
Tracking related.
It was tracking. It's when he's Jeremy Renner's talking to Elizabeth Olsen. He's like, well, if you can see by these tracks here, clearly this happened and that happened and that happened, and it made me think of Aragorn and Lord of the Rings, like listening to the ground and being like, oh, they went this way, and looking at the tracks and doing all that.
Okay.
And I think the only reason I made that connection is because I made the music connection in Hell or High Water. That when I watched this, I just had Lord of the Rings in my subconscious, and then I was like, oh, that's Aragorn.
It's like specifically the scene after they run into the riders of Rohan and they point them towards the bonfire with all the burned.
Oh
orcs.
yeah, it is after that. Yeah, you're right. Good call.
No, it's still within the window that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then he's outlining all the events of how Merry and Pippin escaped.
Yes.
It is kind of reminiscent of that.
I love when a character is has just a random skill like that you're just supposed to believe. I truly don't think the best hunter in the world could have looked at those tracks and deduced what Jeremy Renner deduced.
It's like Sherlock Holmes. Or something.
Fuck you.
Well,
There's
he knows
no
this
way.
land like it's his job.
Yeah.
As it is, Marco.
No, that was a good line. I did like that line. I appreciate it.
And even in the last movie, the random guy with the sniper that Jeff Bridges like flags down. He's like, how well do you know this land? Like the back of my hand. Apparently everyone in Texas knows every square inch of desert out there.
Yeah, correct. Everyone just knows exactly what their land is. Okay.
Anyway.
Any final thoughts on either Wind River or Hell or High Water?
I have just a couple things that upset me, not with the movie, but just like
in life.
Yeah, they were things in life. The fact that when they found Natalie's body and then brought her to, like, I don't know, the morgue or wherever, and they had to say how she died, and they said, well, I have to say it was because of this, like, hemorrhage in her lungs, and that made it so that the FBI then couldn't continue on the case. That was really frustrating, and I know that's, like, probably true to real life, and even in, like, research they detailed, specifically, like, with because I think in America they have, like, the native police on the reservations, and then, like, actual, like, police forces for cities and the FBI and all that jazz. And so whenever there's, like, crimes that happen between not just, like, indigenous versus indigenous, I hate to say it like that, and then, like, white on white, if it's ever, like, a mix of the two, it's really hard to get anything done by either side, because there's always some kind of, like, blockage that they can't, like, access this information or go to this part of town. And so, like, that is just not an issue with the movie because it's the truth, just an issue with life that makes me very angry. And then another issue also similar to life, that, like, after they were pepper sprayed at that, like, dude Sam's house, and then Elizabeth Olsen was super delirious and, like, shot him a bunch of times. He was very violent to her. But yeah, that he died, like, technically was still alive. They're like, honestly, the nearest hospital is 60 minutes away. Like, he's dead. Leave him. I was like, that really hurts. Yeah, again, not the movie, just shitty things. This movie was pretty sad.
Yeah, this movie is pretty sad. It's funny, though, you bring up those two things, because I did have thoughts on both of those as well. So I'm glad you brought them up. One,
nice.
which is the second one, I was 100% convinced the sheriff was just going to walk up and shoot him in the head.
Me too.
Like, because
really?
they set that scene up where he's like, he's not dead yet. And
it looks like he's going to finish the job.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be one, like, a mercy kill. Like, well, he's going to die anyway before anyone gets here, so fucking whatever, kill him. And then he's just like, nah.
But then he dies right there instantly.
But then he dies. So that was kind of weird. Well, not weird, but just different from what I thought.
Death is weird.
Therefore weird. But then to your point with the autopsy scene, Carol, I was kind of thinking, like, yes, this is definitely what would actually happen. And, like, I do get the point to some degree he's making, like, well, this is her cause of death. Like, I have to say this is her cause of death. But it was weird to me. I was like, can't you maybe put, like, an asterisk on that?
Like, is there, like,
be
not
like,
a note section?
Like, it's not like it's a fucking, you don't just get, like, like 20 characters. It's not like 20 characters or less. Like, just fucking be like, she died from this, but also she was raped, and, like, please look into this. Stuff. Yeah. I don't know. So that was a little bit like, I mean, it's probably realistic, but also I think there's more you could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think otherwise, though, I said everything I think that I want.
Another successful episode. Now, would you guys, maybe we can add this to any double feature we do, but would you guys recommend these as a double feature going forward to people? Like, do you think this is a worthwhile double feature, or is this something that is not a worthwhile double feature?
Like, how do they gel as a double feature?
How do they gel, and are they, like, good to watch in the same day? I get, yeah. So, like, would you recommend, like, I'm looking to watch a couple movies in the same day? Does this work as a double feature?
Carol, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they're both good movies, and, like, I would honestly recommend watch both of them. But I did watch them, like, back to back same day, and I get that, like, obviously there's the Taylor Sheridan connection. It's part of his trio of neo westerns. Like, I get it. But I find that at least these two are so different. Like, obviously I haven't seen Sicario, that I was just like, the setting was entirely different. The season was entirely, like, there wasn't really much tying them together other than the writer. And, like, I don't think that, for me, it didn't feel like enough. Like, maybe because, like, I never focus on specifically the writing of it. Like, that's, you guys are definitely more tuned into that part of it. But as just, like, a casual movie watcher, I'd say, is more of what I am. I didn't pick up on enough of the similarities for me to be like, this makes sense as a double feature. I was just like, these are two totally different movies that made me feel two totally different ways.
Right.
And it was weird. But both good movies.
I agree. Both good movies. I think I would say yes, I like them as a double feature, but next time I might try watching Wind River first.
I was just gonna say that. That is
Because-
100% true. Yeah.
Because that
Yeah,
one
if you
end
decide
on
to
the more...
listen to them and watch, like, do them as a double feature, definitely switch it, because it was a bummer
Yes.
to end on Wind
Yeah,
River.
this way
Fuck
you end
yes.
with a more positive note. Not necessarily positive, but like the more lighthearted movie.
Yeah, it has more comedic elements. It's more about like atmosphere, and it's more just like
Yeah.
a classic
Yeah.
good versus bad movie. It's
Yeah.
not like real world. The end is coming to us all because life fucking sucks.
Yeah, and it obviously has the more happy ending of the two.
Yeah.
Relatively. So yeah, I'd have to say yes. I think they do gel well enough together. Like if not thematically, just like aesthetically. Even though like obviously the settings are different, but they're both very rural. I know it's very surface level, but that's just the first thing that comes to mind when putting these two movies together. But yeah, I would say maybe switch the order.
Yeah, I totally agree. I say switch the order. So I've never watched them in the same day. Did you watch them the same day, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. I watched them like one day after the other to prepare for this, just because I didn't have time to double feature them in one day. So watching them like with a day in between, I thought that was totally fine. I've never done it in the same day, but if I did, I would say I do agree, put Wind River first, even though it came out second. And also, yeah, I think I don't think it like, I think what works about it as a double feature is more of just like the stylistic Taylor Sheridan stuff. Because to your point, Carol, like they are very different, like what they're about. They're very different, even settings. But then within that, stylistically, they're both rural settings. They're both sort of about like these small character moments. Like they both have very limited amounts of characters, and those characters really get to shine. Yeah, and they both have a main character who has an ex-wife. So I guess that's something that ties them
That
together.
is
Nothing
nice.
else.
And people wear cowboy hats
Cowboy hats.
and drink lots of alcohol.
Yes.
And there's at least one horse in both of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although I cannot recommend anyone watch these in conjunction with Sicario. That's a very weird comparison to me.
Yeah, I've never seen Sicario, but I can see that.
I am shocked
in the trailer
that like he considers these to
calls
be
it a trilogy.
Like these two seem like a duology. Like I get this is a double feature, but like Sicario is fucking out there.
If you had to, because you've seen all three, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you place Sicario? Like, not quality-wise, like in order, if you're watching this as a trilogy. Would you watch it first, second, or third?
I mean, I would rather just not watch it. But if I had to, if you had a gun to my head and said, Marco, you have to do this.
On theme.
Okay, here's what I'm... Okay. We need to establish something, though. Which is this. That you have unlimited energy and won't get tired.
No. Yeah.
Because the reason I say that is I still think you should end with Hell or High Water because it's the more, like, fun of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the one that leaves you with the most, like, what a classic story. These two guys that kind of respect each other now and are going their own ways. Like, I think it's the best one to end with still. But Sicario, and I guess this is what ties it with Wind River, is it's very about, like, real world stuff. And it's very, like, sad. And, like, man, the state of the world is messed up. And because it's Denis Villeneuve, it's fucking long. And I feel like if you watched Wind River and Sicario, I would not have the energy to watch another movie after that. But in a world where I did, and maybe I was spacing them out, taking a coffee break in between or something, like, yeah, I would still put Hell or High Water last, and I think I would put Sicario in the middle.
Okay.
I think start with Wind River because it's still shorter. It's like briefer. It's more of a condensed story. It's like you're in, you're out. Great. We started the day
Like
off
your
right.
first act.
It's your first act. Yeah,
Second
yeah.
act.
Exactly. Like I
Second
think
act.
you have to put Sicario in the middle because it's Denis, so it's like 2.5 hours, and you're just kind of like sitting there, fucking taking this all in. So you kind of have to put that one in the middle. If you start with that, you're gonna be just too exhausted to do anything, and if you end with that, it's just too depressing. So, yeah, that's how I would structure it. But also like.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it was the circumstances of the day I watched it, but I just didn't vibe with Sicario that much. I can appreciate it, but I wouldn't say, like, run out and go see Sicario. And I know a lot of people did. A lot of people were like, this is one of the best fucking movies I've ever seen, but it was just a lot.
Is there a sequel to that movie?
Yeah, which is apparently very bad.
Okay.
That, like, even people that really like the first one were like, don't see the second one. But I've only seen the first one, and it was a lot. I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. So.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for listening to the podcast, as always. Sorry, this episode got to some depressing places that we don't normally talk about, but fear not.
The movie made us do it.
The movie made us do it, and, I know the last few episodes, it's been pretty dour. You know what I mean? We talked about Hill House, which is about trauma, and we talked about these movies, which are about being poor and about trauma. And Dan and I, in between, talked about the Uncharted trailer, which is maybe the most depressing out of all of them. And fear not, friends and listeners, because our next episode is going to kick off a slew of episodes that are going to be fucking hilarious, and I think everyone's going to enjoy.
Excited.
So our next episode is on 21 Jump Street, the 21 Jump Street franchise. 1 and 2. And
Not
that is
the
another
like
double
OG
feature?
show, the new films.
No, the new films. Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill.
Yep.
Incredible. We all love them. We've all seen them before, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited to rewatch them.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah. And then that will be followed up by everyone's favorite quadrilogy, Shrek. Yes, I know. Everyone's been clamoring for it. We're finally going to do the Shrek franchise.
Our most requested episode.
Our most requested, which, just to put out
true?
there. Oh, yeah.
No one has requested it.
Well,
except for me.
technically we've had 0 requests, so yes,
So everything is our most
everything's our most
requested.
requested. But we're gonna do Shrek now. Yeah, you guys might be saying, but Marco, only Shrek 1 and 2 are good. Yeah, we know. Don't worry about it. We're gonna talk about all of them. The first
You
2
don't
are
have to
great.
watch it.
You don't have to watch all of them. Just rewatch the first 2, and we'll talk about them, and then we'll get to the other ones. It'll be fine. Okay, so we will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, as always. Please feel free to interact on YouTube if you're actually a person listening to this, and
As
Who else
opposed
are we
to a
listening
bot.
to it? Do you think we have robo listeners?
maybe, I don't know, 2021, almost 2022. And then also, we have social media. We have an Instagram, which is linked on our YouTube. You can find us there. We sometimes... if it's not, it will be as of this episode in the description. We're gonna start doing that because it probably should be. So go find us there where we have more information about like other ways to listen to us as well. We try to post like either upcoming stuff or funny behind the scenes stuff, whenever we get the chance. We're not really consistent about it, but whatever. It's there. Go ahead, DM us. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Otherwise, we're gonna keep talking about Shrek. So yeah, thanks for listening
that's
as
a
always.
threat.
That's a threat. We will
Damn right, it's a
literally
threat.
do nothing but episodes about Shrek until someone tells us to do something otherwise.
Hey, there's Shrek the Halls.
Yeah,
I know.
we got all those
There's
mini-
Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a 3D movie or something?
Maybe. I don't know.
There's options.
There was the Halloween one.
There's the Halloween one.
Yeah.
Guys, we got options, so don't
we have
test
a
us.
cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Don't play chicken with us.
Also, can we please, even though we're only talking about the main quadrilogy, can we please call that episode the Shrek Cinematic Universe?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. The SCU.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for listening, as always, guys. Thank you for joining me for this discussion, and look forward to recording with you guys again shortly, where I'm sure we will say, "Man, it's been a long time since we recorded," because we say that every time. So. All right. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Bye.